So now what do I do? Well, I guess there's only one thing. There's something I'd like to know. Are you real? Can you feel?
Hi friends and Prairie Vintage, my name's Linda. I'm an energy intuitive reader here on YouTube. I use spirit and my intuition, the tarot, to communicate energies to you guys, fabulous viewers. If you guys are new to this channel, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you guys finally found me. Here I am, here you are. If this reading doesn't resonate, there are many readings in my playlist. Hopefully you find one that does resonate for you guys. And for the rest of you guys who have been here before, I'm so blessed, so grateful, and I cannot wait to get into your reading. This will be a pick a card reading using these decks right here. Okay, so I'll put a link to the playlist where I do the deck reveal so that those of you guys interested in these decks can take a look at the cards, energetically charge the cards. And also, this will be a pick a card or pick an option. Okay, I will get into the 3 options to choose from for today's reading. But today's reading, it did come through with a channeled message, hence the paper. Okay, it might not be everyone's message, but I feel like if you're challenged in a situation currently, okay, this might help to gain some clarity in regards to a challenging situation. Okay, if you want to go straight away to the pick an option, then I'll put a link below, and the reading will be taking a look at like a high level sort of spiritual look, okay, at you versus someone. Now, this someone could be your divine counterpart. This could be your twin flame. This could be your high-level soulmate. This could be your high self versus your low self. This could be a shadow aspect of self. This could be a divine counterpart you haven't encountered yet, who's aligned vibrationally to you. Okay, then it's someone who's crossed over. This could be anyone or anything that is resonating for you. Okay, it's not really fixed in any sort of way, but the energy in the pile should resonate for you for this to be your reading. It's not going to be everyone's reading. Okay, if it's not resonating overall, it's not your reading and it's not your pile, and it's most likely not going to make any sense to you. Okay, so certain messages do pull through for certain individuals needing clarification or validation that it is their pile. You can leave those specific messages for those people. Usually I will say this is not applicable to everyone. Okay, but the overall energy should be something that is resonating and matching. Okay, overall. And so we'll be doing sort of a look at A versus B or you versus them layout. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the channeled message that was pulling through, and then we will get into the picking options so that we can get into your reading. Beautiful people. If you like to skip ahead, like I said, I will put the timestamps down below, and I will see you guys at wherever section you jump to. All right, beautiful people. This is a channeled message that is pulling through here, okay? Imagine this paper as infinite consciousness. It goes on and on and on forever. Okay, I know I have borders here, but just imagine that there are no borders. This space goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on forever. Okay, this is infinity. It is infinite source. It is creator. It is all abundance. It is everything in the universe that you could possibly ever imagine, going on and on and on. Okay, so any localized point on this infinity space, be it this, be it this, be it that, be it that, be it that. Okay, hopefully you guys can see it. Whatever this, wherever, however, okay. However it is, any one of these localized spaces, even if it's infinitesimally small or like massive, okay, it's going to contain all of the universe in that localized point. Okay, so there is nothing that it can contain that's outside of this infinite space. Okay, because it's falling in the infinite space. It contains everything that's within it in that infinite space. Okay, so it doesn't really necessarily matter. Now, I'm saying all of this to say, imagine all of these little like squiggles and dots and lines is our localized perception of the creator. And when it's pure, I'm using red, meaning we are completely in line with truth and we are completely unbiased with no filtration, zero experience dictating and projecting opinions and judgments. Okay, but the minute we come with our own filtration, we start to create distortions. Okay, and so now what happens is I have my subconscious and I have my conscious self. Okay, so now this, you can say, well, this contains the full state of infinity. Okay, but as long as it's connected to subconscious energies, that is in the shadow that we cannot see, these shadows are creating distortions in our perception. And so although we might be conscious to a degree, it's attached to subconscious unknowings that are driving 97%, more or less, of our awareness. Okay, now I use awareness loosely because if you have this much subconscious, you're not really aware. But our awareness, meaning to the degree in which we are acting based on what we think we know, okay, and in other words, 97% asleep. So what that means is when we can bring ourselves closest to truth, we're now seeing the infinite creator as it should be, as complete sort of truth. Okay, but when we have shadow and distortion, we are only seeing, the 3% of the divine creator as it is. And so this shadowy aspect creates lack. It creates a feeling of inadequacy. It creates a distorted understanding of our true infinite potential. Because even this dot that I made here, which is tiny, it carries no shadow. It knows its complete sort of essence. Okay, there is no casting shadow, so it knows its complete essence. It knows it's whole and complete. It's one with the creator. And when we have the shadows attached to it, it distorts our reality and we feel like we're lacking. We feel incomplete. We feel like we are removed from the creator, but it's just a distortion because all of these markings in red are in perfect love and truth. Like I said, is synonymous with God. And anytime there is shadow, that's an absence of God, absence of truth, absence of love. Okay, so we want to remove as much distortion so that we can see reality with a capital R for what it is and not our perceived reality with the distortion and acting as though that's true. Okay, because it's just relative truth, but only 3% of it is actually in line with the creator. 97% of it is actually a figment of a perception, which might be so far removed from truth and not aligned with love. Okay? So when here we are. Okay, here we are, full of our shadow. Here's our conscious self. Okay, and as you know, this piece of paper, like I said, goes on and on and on and on and on forever. Okay. So we're always going to have some part of shadow here. So there'll always be some form of a distortion. Okay. But the more we sort of do to unblock the distortion and bring it into balance, the more we're seeing the creator as it is. Okay. So it's all sort of relative and it's all sort of proportionate to our state of consciousness, and we could never possibly know everything out in infinity because that's just too much. Okay, but we are able to balance out our conscious self with our unconscious self. Okay, so why I'm saying this is because this is the root of all our suffering, meaning it shows up in situations, circumstances, and relationships. And when we carry a perception as truth, we start to engage as though that is the truth, but we're in illusion. So when we get pulled towards, okay, we get pulled towards the object of our fantasy. Okay, like we put someone on a pedestal, so we get pulled towards this. The brain automatically does not want to see and does not register the downside to whatever it is that we're pulled to. Okay, the object of our infatuation. It's going to put its rose-colored glasses and see only as much of the good, and it does its outweighing. The brain mechanism, the ego mechanism, is designed like this for a reason. Okay, so that we can get pulled towards what it is that we are attracted to, infatuated with, pulled towards, and we put on those rose-colored glasses. Now, we do the opposite with that in which we are actually not wanting. Okay, we do the opposite. So the ego is going to demonize and see why this is bad, and any good trait is devalued or not seen. And so the intensity of what we don't like is seen. And so we want to resist, repel, or reject because the ego wants to survive. And so it's a threat. I do not want to experience. And so I demonize this as like bad. And this, the ego will see as good. And so, yes, please, I want more. And so it magnifies this as good. And everything that's sort of not good about it doesn't exist. Okay. But as we know, everything has a positive and a negative. Rest assured, if something is nice, it's probably mean at the same time, and we're just not seeing it. Okay? If something is sweet, it also has sour, because that is the law of polarity. Okay? And so all this to say, how do we balance this shadow is how conscious we are to which way we're leaning. Are we leaning towards putting something on a pedestal, not seeing the negative polarity of this thing? This would be fantasy, and we'd be in delusion. Okay, we're in delusion here when we're in fantasy and something's on a pedestal. We're not recognizing it in its full capacity with the positive and negative. And when we are seeing something as negative, let's say, or something that we're resenting something, then we're seeing this from the eyes of illusion as well. Okay, and we cast judgment. Either way, we're casting judgment. And so neither of these are based in reality, and they're not balanced. Okay, and if they're not balanced, then we're sort of in illusion and chaos. So how do we get out of chaos into a balanced state of divine order? We have to bring in the opposite polarity. So if I'm in complete fantasy, I have to live through and imagine that this person, situation, place, whatever it is that I'm fantasizing about or blowing up, also has a downside. And now I bring it back to center. Okay, so now I can see the positive and the negative polarity, and it no longer becomes a fantasy, it becomes reality. The same with this illusion. Okay, so the illusion of this thing is threatening, this thing is mean, this thing is, we victimize, okay, the ego does this. And so we need to pull it towards the other way. What is the benefit here? Because everything has its opposite polarity. And when we can balance the opposite polarity and infuse the opposite polarity into that person, place, thing with less judgment, we're more objective and we're truer to what is real or what the universe or how God sees that. Okay, and so we in a world of trouble when we're in fantasy because we're in delusion and we're acting out of the subconscious. Okay, and when we are sort of demonizing, victimizing, and this is out of blame and shame that we house within ourselves, that we do this. Okay, we see it in other, we see it in thing, but it means it's within us and we're rejecting it. Okay, and when we see something we like and we admire and we're infatuated with, it's also in us because the universe contains all. And so this is the all, this is the all, everything is the all except for the distortion. That's not the all. The distortion is the shadow casted by our own perceptions and judgments that's actually misaligned with truth and God. Okay, like the universe would see it as reality. And so this was very difficult to explain, but I think this might have been the best way to sort of explain to someone who might be visual regarding where their pain and suffering is coming from. Okay, so when we attach to those subconscious beliefs as truths, remember that they're illusions either which way. Where did I put it? They're illusions either which way, as long as they're like carrying projections. Okay, they're carrying projections. And so the more conscious we are, the more we know we're projecting or we're judging or we're, building something up to be more than what it is because we're not seeing the negative polarity or the downside to this thing or vice versa. Okay, and then we can localize, meaning find it within ourselves where it is that we're resisting out of shame and guilt, and where it is that we are building something up out of maybe being too humble. Okay, too humble, humility gets in the way. That's not me. I wish I were like that. Okay, but we are all things. We are everything. We are kind, and we are mean, and we are all things. Okay, and we have to accept that we are all things. This is how we integrate our shadow. If we reject any part of ourself and then we only pick and choose, then parts of ourselves are fragmented here in this shadow, and it creates the 97% of that action without us realizing, because we're not fully conscious of that in which we house. We still house it. We've just tucked it away somewhere, saying that's not me. I couldn't be like that. I don't have any of those traits. Okay, somewhere within me. Meanwhile, every single localized point, no matter how big, contains every sort of aspect of the divine creator, from the good to the bad. And so this little dot, this is negative polarity and this is positive polarity. It contains both. It doesn't matter how big. This is negative polarity, positive polarity. Contains both. This contains negative polarity, positive polarity. It contains both. It doesn't matter how small or how large. Negative polarity, positive polarity. Negative polarity, positive polarity. Okay, and so here, this is positive polarity, and the negative polarity would be here, but I can't see this. It's obstructing my truest way of seeing because my perception's distorted. Okay, and so we need to know, are we in fantasy? Okay, because if we're in fantasy, then this means we're not accepting some form of truth. That also comes with the downside of this. Okay, because the ego only knows, like I said, two things. It knows to attach, to create desire, what it wants, and it's going to do everything to achieve that and box out and blind everything else that might be true in order to reach this and attain this. Okay, and then it creates disappointment when we attain it and we realize that we haven't fulfilled that in which we seek, which isn't in form, but actually essence. Okay, or we can't achieve it, and then we're left with disappointment because we had an attachment. Okay, or in this case, we resist, we fight, we run, and we say, I don't want this, I don't have this within me, like this trait of whatever it is that we're seeing in another or in a situation, and then we're rejecting that part of ourselves. The only way we would be able to see it in another, judge it in another, point it out in another, is because it's within ourselves. Okay, if we've never seen an apple ever as a baby, okay, and it's shown to us, we have no idea what that is. There is no judgment. It's very neutral. The apple, don't know what it is. Okay, but the minute we start to judge, the minute we start to label, the minute we see it as something, that means it's within us to see. And how we're seeing it is actually how we're seeing ourselves. And so judgment, that's why we say judgments must pass through you in order to be given onto other. And so you carry that judgment of self. Okay. And when I say judgment, that can go in either way, because a judgment is just your perceived opinion about this thing. And so is your opinion based in reality, or is your opinion based with subconscious sort of experiences of your lens, casting distortions and shadows further away from divine creator and reality with its positive and negative polarity? Okay, so nothing to do with this reading. However, everything to do with trying to shake and wake you up of any sort of fantasy you might be in, or any sort of resentments, angers, disappointments, shames that you might be experiencing. Okay, so beautiful angels, will go into the 3 options, and I will see you guys at your read. All right, gorgeous angels, let's pull our 3 options for today's reading. You versus them in regards to spiritual ascension, where you're at with your spiritual journey. Okay, I do suggest you go listen to the intro so you know what this reading's about. We'll pull 3 cards for the collective for the 3 options. Option number 2, and then option number 3. Okay. Gorgeous angels, if at any point you're called to any one of these 3, you can select from the timestamp down below. All right, so let's reveal these for you guys. Option number 1, we have faith, humanity, and benevolence. It says, stay calm, trust the good in yourself and others, see the light in the world. Option number 2, we have green Tara, supreme protection. You are protected, cords are being cut, move beyond limitation and trust. I do feel like the channeled message could be for this group that I channeled, okay, in this reading. Like the channeled message that I put right after the intro. So, hope, love, and acceptance. Love is yours. Recognize your divine worth. Choose loving thoughts. Okay. Wow. Beautiful energy. Let me leave this running for you guys. Sit with this energy. Whichever one you're called to, most likely is the message for you. Okay, could be different people, different aspects. Keep an open mind. Do not force messages to fit. And I will see you guys at your pick. Gorgeous angel, pile number 1, you guys pick faith, humanity, and benevolence. It says, stay calm, trust the good in yourself and others, see the light in the world. All right, so we have a you versus them. Okay, and I do suggest you go listen to the intro, because a them could certainly be anything, okay, meaning a higher self. This could be a counterpart you haven't encountered. This could be your lower self. This could be anything, okay? Now, most of you guys might be on a twin flame higher level soulmate type connection. And this is what this is intended for. Okay, which is taking a look at both sides of the journey so that we can understand and sort of contrast and compare so that we have a good understanding of how to engage with this situation, with certain individual, with ourselves, whatever it is you're using this for, should be for healing, okay, and to expel any sort of illusion, okay, or I should say to create a dissolution of any sort of fantasy or any sort of restriction or limitation. All right, so let's take a look at person A. You can fall on A or B, it doesn't matter, but you need to resonate with one side sort of being your energy. Now, this is going to be more high level, okay, I think, spiritually. And so if you are very focused in the mind and 3D, this might become a little challenging, okay, to see which is yours. But this is where you need to develop your intuition to know whether it is your side, okay? But like I say, if you resonate with one side being your energy intuitively, then this is your reading. Okay, if it doesn't resonate, then it's not your reading. It's not going to make sense. Okay, so we have loneliness, 68 and 5. So it says initiatory ordeal, stress level, entrepreneurial project, collaborative project, interdependency, physical challenge, social involvement, family responsibilities. Type 5, the observer, thinking center between interior and exterior. Okay, and then we have the one with self with blossoming, 8-8. And then we have surrender to play. Take a break from overthinking a goal. Do something fun. Play is a time of recreation and rejuvenation. And then we have attentiveness, listening skills, selflessness, presence, support, generosity, and soul warmth with the number 29 and 2, relationship skill. Type 2, the helper, emotional center between giving and receiving. Okay, and then we have free love, 101 and 2. So 2 2s. 22 is a master number. Okay, that's divinely guided relationships. We have the blue, which is authentic self-expression with the throat chakra. And then we have red with the root chakra here. Okay, healthy love, growth level, 101 and 2. Free love, independent love, emancipated love, liberated love, sovereign love, multiple loves, and autonomous love. Type 2, the helper, emotional center between giving and receiving. Okay, and then we have poverty, limited opportunities, lack of recognition, dissolution, marginalization, social stigmatization, and then artistic collaboration. Type 4, the individualist emotional center between lack and abundance. Interesting, because here it was talking about collaborative project, and here it's talking about artistic collaboration. 67 and 4. Okay, so let's reveal this other side over here. Okay, person B. We have loss of meaning, 73 and 1, dark night of the soul, stress level, intense self-criticism, feeling of futility, exhaustion, extreme shame, anger, resurgence, and deep dissatisfaction. Type 1, the perfectionist instinctive center between control and letting go. And then we have acknowledge, take responsibility with 1-1. And then we have surrender to joy. Interesting, surrender to play. Common thread here, okay? A key positive change in your life is to let joy in and savor it. Indulge in random acts of smiling during both of the hard and easy times. Keep surrendering to more joy. And then we have universal love, union with the divine love. With divine love. True self-worth, self-love, union of souls, unconditional love, profound compassion. Type 2. Okay, and then it's in French here because I think they forgot to convert it. Mystical experience, 83 and 2. And then we have unavailability, 50. Stingy, but that's as stringy. I don't know what's as stringy. Stringy with one's time. Stingy. Leave it to a Virgo to correct all of the grammar in the cards, even though I have horrible grammar. Anyway, invested elsewhere, absorbed, busy, focused elsewhere, invested in his passion. 5. Type 5, the observer, thinking center between interior and exterior. Some more authentic self-expression and root chakra. Okay, and then we have 5 here as well, and we have 2. So this is so fascinating for me, okay, when I'm picking up here, but let me channel and then I will get into your reading. Okay, beautiful angels. This messaging is super, super, super clear here, okay? First of all, person A, I'm going to read signs here, okay? We have Taurus, Sagittarius, Aries, and Scorpio, and Pisces and Libra coming through very strong. Okay. And then for person B, we have Virgo, Gemini, and Pisces, Libra, Taurus, and Sagittarius as well here. Okay. Oh, sorry, I missed Leo on the side here, and Aquarius. Okay. So it doesn't have to be sun sign. It could be just prominent in the birth chart or the energy that's being expressed here in this reading. So these two people are I'm really feeling like mirrored souls in a way here. Okay. And I'm also feeling why there's like a push pull or a magnetic sort of pull. And I can also see why there might be a challenge all sort of coming through. So I've got to peel this back in layers. Oops. I forgot the tarot and your guidance cards here because I don't want to forget. So one thing that's coming through here, okay, is that person A is really sort of relying on person B, whether they subconsciously know it or not. Okay, they're really, really, really sort of letting it ride with B because there's something going on with an A that needs to be looked at in regards to being able to be solid, whole and complete, supporting them themselves from a place of finding their self-worth from the inside out. Okay, and so they have to strengthen this muscle. Now, they don't have to do anything, but in order for them to not be in suffering, because person A feels most likely disappointed and alone and left out and neglected, not seen, rejected, and there's a heavy sort of sadness, disappointment, and loneliness here. They feel like person B is not involving themselves, is not showing up, is not, and they could come up with a list of what person B has not done for them, cannot do for them, and it's creating a disappointment here. So person A sees a lack, like a lack in this connection. It's disappointing. It's not fulfilling. It hasn't fulfilled these things. And so now it's like, I'm disappointed. And like, what do I do with this big gap, this void space? And so person A is having to develop this inner cultivation of self-worth. Okay, and I'm not just using words here. Self-worth, we're worthy, go take a bubble bath and take care of yourself, and now you love yourself. This person could certainly do all the things, they could do all the things that show that, okay, I love myself, But when we're talking about like a true integration of connecting with all that is, and I do suggest this pile, if you resonate with this person, well, either people, but this person, then that channeled message that I gave is like, there is a shadow that's being cast, and it is a distortion, and it is how person A perceives themselves, because they are still in a scarcity mindset, and they're seeing separation. They carry a belief in separation, and it is impossible to feel lonely, impossible to feel lack, if we're not carrying that separation belief. Meaning, if I know that I'm one with the Creator, that means I am all abundant, I am lacking nothing, and I am whole and complete, and I'm all love. I do not need to seek it out from someone else or to show it to me, because I embody it. And I know I embody it because I've connected to it. But when I can't connect to it, and when I perceive, okay, I do suggest, like I say, this person go listen to that channeled message. When I perceive with my distorted veil of what I think how other perceives me is actually dictating the truth, then I start to carry this unnecessary understanding that is untrue of my self-worth. So innately, this person has a burning desire to be loved, to work together, to create something that's driving this person, and they're seeking it. They're going out to seek this thing. That other person is going to make it better. It's going to be whole once me and the thing that I'm looking for come together. Okay? Which we know is absolutely not true, because they'll seek and then they'll be disappointed. They'll be on a constant seeking of that in which is already within them. Very cliche, but it is within them and it's there for them to connect to. And so they are being called to connect to this. This is why this connection is most likely triggering, because, and I'll get into B. B is being a mirror to A in order for A to deal with this lack mindset and remove this illusion of separation and allow person A to feel whole and complete and not lonely, okay, and not removed and not separated from the divine creator and that of love and truth. And so there's a balance here that person A will have to go through once they connect to this essence, and how they can bring it back to the 3D so that they can collaborate and work with others without losing themselves, and knowing how to stand strong in their wholeness and completeness. So this could be created, this wounding or this shadow could be created by abandonment. Okay, we have a lot of root chakra here, which to me, when I see this, it is the most base fundamental chakra here that houses our center meaning not heart, but center as in the groundedness. We feel safe, we feel secure, we feel rooted, okay, like with security. And so this person's biggest sort of block here would be in the root chakra, because they don't feel like the roots are planted firmly for them. And so they could feel very wobbly here, and they want to get rooted. They want to feel safe. They want to feel secure. They want to feel grounded and like they could depend on their circumstance or situation. And in this case, they think they need to depend on someone else, which is a recipe for disaster, because you cannot depend on anyone else to provide you, okay, person A, with that in which we think is going to make us whole and complete. That's a recipe for disaster, okay? Nobody can make us feel whole and complete. People come with the light and the dark, okay? They're going to come with light and dark. And so there is nothing that anyone else can sort of do to complete person A, no matter how much they seek, no matter how much they think that other person is perfect. There is no such thing as perfection. There will always be the negative to counteract it. Whether this person blocks it, sees rose-colored glasses, doesn't want to acknowledge it, then this person is in fantasy or illusion, not wanting to deal with reality. And the reality is that all people can contain light and shadow, okay, positive and negative. And so person A is having to abandon that idea, that external person relationship, or person B is going to be the one that's going to heal me or make me feel better. How do I do this? It's only through oneself and cultivating it through oneself, and and letting go of any sort of illusion or fantasy, like I say, that it might be woven into one's belief, and see through that falsity, see through that illusion. And how does one do this is to be very present. Okay, so there's a need for A to be present, because A is actually in the present moment with a whole set of understandings, distortions, and beliefs and attachments to what they think something should be when it's good, and how something is when it's bad or lacking. And all of that stuff is creating the suffering. And I think person A is trying to win over person B and overcompensating, overgiving. If I could be better, do better. And so there's an imbalance here in this connection. Okay, and so if person A was in play mode, which is in this present moment, not carrying all of those thoughts, judgments, and beliefs, person A would learn about this free love. What I'm seeing is sort of like this elasticized sort of ability, not rigid, not hanging on, not tight, not clinging to, but this flowing state of what love actually is, okay, with free love. That love is not binding, love is not fixed, love is not transactional, love is not based on anything that we are trying to attain or avoid, we're trying to fill. Love is something that we output, and it has no expectation of anything in return. That is love, free love. And so A is learning this because A might become feeling, like I said, lonely. It could build in resentments. It could feel like they're being abandoned or let down by other people who are not doing the thing they think that they deserve or need. Meanwhile, they already have this thing. And so they're working through this. Okay. And the key, like I said, is it being in the present moment without any of that preconceived, but they have to undo the preconceived veil. Okay. Their veil of lack and the belief of how it is that they can collaborate with other, from the point where what it is that they'll pull from that collaboration is nothing but a figment of their own trauma in the root chakra. Okay. There's no other way I can sort of explain this. Sometimes spiritual concepts are ineffable, meaning that there's like no words here. Okay. So now person B is pulled to person A because I think the lessons here are fairly similar. Okay, but like I said, there's a push-pull and a mirror, because I feel like person B is taking everything that they can in order to build themselves up. And so if person A is willing to pour into B, person B feels a void and a hole, like a vacuum here, because there's a lot of, it says extreme shame. Person B does not see their value, and it's in a different way than person A. But neither see their eternal light or their truest, capital T, essence. You know, that they're the divine, they're an extension of the divine creator, whole and complete, full of love and truth. Neither of them have connected to it. Okay, but I feel like A might be on the perpetual seek and might be addicted to external validation, and that a relationship will make me feel a certain way. And so they might be somebody who, without a relationship, feels empty and complete. Whereas person B doesn't feel whole and complete and feels not worthy of relationship. And so it pushes away everything that it thinks is too good for it, or it's not worthy of. Okay, now again, subconsciously. But then it takes and it keeps energy, because the energy it's burning. Okay, I'm saying it because I don't feel it's this person. Okay, when we're in this sort of state, it's ego driven, it's subconscious. And so the vacuum here is sort of real. It's going to take as much energy as it can, because person B is feeling this inadequacy, is really feeling like they themselves are, I can't even put this into words. It's like there's a huge void, almost like a nothingness here, you know, but a vacuum. And it feels like the more I could kind of take in, then finally I could have building blocks to build myself. But it's like, no, as long as it's a vacuum, it's going to keep sucking and sucking and sucking, and it never ends. It never ends, because the external prop up is never enough, because the prop up of our own belief and value must come from within. Okay, so see how it's mirrored. And so unless it's cultivated from within, like truly understanding my great nature, the truth is that I am actually, there is nothing to be shameful of. And that if I hold shame, then the opposite I also hold, because again, the law of opposites, or the law of polarity, exists here. Okay. And so this means if I hold shame, I hold the opposite, but I'm not seeing it and connecting to it. And I'm only seeing myself from one sort of lens. And it's the negative polarity lens. And so there I don't encompass any of the, I don't think I encompass any of the positive. And so person B feels like they're lacking. Okay. And so person B is unavailable to person A, because they're unavailable to themselves. In fact, they think they need all that they can. And so person B could be addicted to distraction, addiction, other people everywhere, as much as I can take, information, suck it all in. And eventually I'll get there and I'll know who I am and I'll reach the certain bar. And it's like, no, you're just going to keep pulling it in, and it's endless. The universe, like I talked about in my channel message at the beginning, is ever abundant. It's infinite. And we can keep pulling in forevermore and never heal the thing or feel whole and complete. And as long as we're doing this, pulling towards, we are unavailable to give, to output. And because person B is inputting, taking, and trying to use external to prop up and validate and confirm the missing part. I want to be love. I want to not feel shame. I want to feel whole. I want to feel strength. I want to feel all these things that I don't feel within me, because all I really feel is a loss of meaning and shame and anger and dissatisfaction in myself and who I think I am. So my idea, which is distorted, of who I think I am is actually not based in reality, but a distorted perception. And so I suffer here, and anyone in my vicinity, I will take, kind of like an energy vampire, take and take and take and take. And so if someone's willing to give and give and give from an overflowing cup, I'm going to keep taking, of course, because it hurts. It hurts, but I will never be able to heal this thing unless I cultivate my strength from within. Okay, and so take responsibility and acknowledge is really talking about this person B, fully standing in their power to acknowledge I am the dark and I'm also the light. I am the positive and the negative all at once. And I embrace everything of myself, and I don't fragment off. I don't only see the bad that I am and hold that shame and then think that's who I am. And so now, therefore, that's the idea of who I am. And everything that holds the thing that I don't think I am, which I am, by the way, because I could see it in other. Okay, if I could see it in other, that means it exists within me. But I'm not acknowledging it within me. I can't see it within me. I'm rejecting it within me because I either don't feel worthy enough of accepting it. I have too much shame, so I can't accept it. And so it sits there as a fragmented part of myself that I need to integrate. I need to integrate all parts of me. The good and the bad, good, the shadow and the light, the positive and the negative. Okay, and when it's harmonized, when it comes together, it's actually pure love. Okay, because divine harmony, divine order is pure love. It's not in chaos. Okay, and it's not an illusion fantasy. It's centered in divine love. And so person B is having to work through seeing themselves through the eyes of the Creator, because they're learning a lesson of universal love, true self-worth, self-love, unconditional love, which means of self as well. And so both these individuals are working through this balance and this duality, okay, the negative and the positive, and how they're seeing themselves. And also with this 22, like I mentioned, is divinely guided. So this connection is divinely guided for these two to work together. Now we have humanity and benevolence. Stay calm, trust the good in yourself and in others. So the balance here wouldn't be, I found it in myself and therefore I reject all other, It's like I got to find it within myself, and then I have to balance it out in a way here that I'm stable in self and I am capable of giving it to other without losing self. So in the case of person A, which I feel a lot of you guys most likely are here, because this person, for person A, well, you guys could be B as well, but for person A, it's like I'm trying to find the right words here. It's like seeking for something to make me feel worthy and valuable, that I will forever be seeking, because the value must come from within me. And so I will continue to try to find the right people, situation that makes me feel like now it's okay. Now I'm worthy. Now I can say, okay, I did it, And so if they do find the community or the person that makes them feel a certain way, it's fleeting because it's external. No matter how long they experience it, 20 years, 4 weeks, 3 days, 1 hour, it's external. And that fulfillment will come and go based on whether the relationship's doing good or bad. The minute that relationship starts to not do what person A expects or wants or shoulda, woulda, coulda, then it falls flat. And then person A is disappointed, feeling alone and abandoned and left out. It's like, I am only worthy when things are functioning with other, and then things are good. But when I am alone, then I'm broken and incomplete. It's like, no, love isn't unwavering like that. God's love is constant at all times. And so if person A taps into their divinity of true God order, divine order, then they will see that the love is there, whether they are in a relationship, in a connection, functioning in the 3D world like flow, or whether they're just sitting with themselves, being at peace, being in the present moment. Love is present. Person A needs to connect to love in every moment by being present in the moment. And when they're present in the moment, when they see the love in the moment, they can connect to the love within self. Okay? And when B isn't too busy carrying the heavy burden of shame and their judgment of self, they're carrying a heavy, heavy judgment of self and comparison to how they should be. And until they reach that unrealistic bar, they will tell themselves that they must continue to remain in this energy because that's what they're sort of deserving of. And then because of this heaviness, it's like, I'm going to still be hungry for that in which every soul wants, which is belonging and wholeness. And so if anything is willing to make me feel this way, even if it's immediate gratification and it scratches the itch on the surface, it's better than me just being completely in the void space. And so, like I said, this person will take action and things that alleviate this person's suffering, even if it's for a moment, even if it's going to make them feel more shallow later. And so this person doesn't have a good sort of grasp on that their actions and their immediate choices actually are contributing to this heaviness of shame and guilt and unfulfillment and this intense self-criticism that they have, because they keep perpetuating that in which they believe they are. And so it's like, if I believe I'm a disappointment, I continue to do disappointing things. And so this person's behaviors here is truly acting from this untrue belief of who they think that they are, but they're more than that. They're everything. Okay? So this surrender to joy is also talking about being in the present moment, to be able to actually tap into the joy and not that immediate gratification, because joy is truly being in the present moment with reality as it is in order to connect to that joy. So more joyful moments, I'll realize, okay, as person B, when I sit in these joyful moments, that, hey, I might carry this shame. So how was it that I was able to experience a joyful moment? If I truly believed that I wasn't worthy of joy and that I couldn't carry anything abundant, when abundance comes, when joy comes, despite me carrying this, it gives me a glimpse of my true nature. And so the true nature that I have is shown to me through reflection, even if it is brief moments of true joy, not fleeting, not self-gratifying moments that I will criticize later because I partook in some sort of shameful action or disappointing action, but true joy. The more I sit with this, the more I get a glimpse of my true nature. And so person B is being asked to sit with true presence so that they connect to the joyful moment, so they could see their true divine nature and connect to universal love. So both these people are learning how to love. Okay, person B again, true self-worth and self-love, even though person A also needs to connect to their divinity. But I don't feel person A is going to say, I don't love myself. I feel person A, it needs to be flexible with their understanding of what love means and how they're utilizing love in their world and what they think love is going to do for them. Because love is something to output. Love isn't something to take and keep that's going to fill a void. The only thing that's going to fill a void here is knowing that there is no void. But we have to see our true divinity and say there is no void in God's universe. There is only distortion. And the only reason I have a distortion and a shadow is because I have a belief here in lack that doesn't exist. And it's unreal. And I have to dissolve that belief. Okay, and then I could be more flexible in my understanding of love. And this love is, what can I output? Not from what can I output so I can attain. It's not transactional, because person A will continue to be disappointed when they output, especially if they're dealing with someone like this. Output, but person B is not available to give anything back to person A. But A doesn't need anything from person B. And A should only be giving from an overflowing cup once they connect to their divinity. Otherwise, they're just giving away what it is that they should be pouring into themselves until they feel connected to and whole. And so person A is learning about this. Okay, I know I'm channeling quite choppy, and that's how this energy is coming through. I don't know why, but I have guidance here and I have tarot. So I will read the tarot just to see what pulls through as an added message. Okay, but I want to come back to this card because I feel like it's not only about how we see self, how we cultivate self, love of self. Okay, and this is talking about humanity, because I do feel it's like how we see self, we extrapolate that in how we engage with other in the world. And so if we are from a place of benevolence to self, the greatness, the truth of self, the love of self, we can extrapolate that to how we engage with other. Now, if person A is under the assumption of how they see themselves here as lacking, then they're giving off this energy of like, I lack, please give to me because I lack. And so no one is going to want to be magnetized or pulled to a lack sort of mindset of someone who's outwardly energetically saying, I must take from you, please give to me energetically. Okay, and B is putting off an energy here where it's like a desire to take everything in as much as I can so that I can feel an immediate sort of sense of meaning, but never fully fill my cup. And no one's going to want to be pulled to that because it's draining, because it's lopsided, because there's only so much someone can pour into someone like this before person B needs to take responsibility and accountability and acknowledge the way that they're seeing themselves, which is distorted. And once they do this, then they can pour into other, because then they could see others from the same sort of perspective that, other might also carry judgment of themselves. Okay, and so there is this need for true authenticity from both sides, from the authentic self, and then a dissolution of this Hierophant energy, because I feel this is conditioning and programming, how they see themselves. Okay, and then there is this having to deal with the root chakra, which is their the way that they fulfill themselves as a result of feeling that they're lacking love, security, and abundance from the scarcity mindset. Okay, and they're both being guided here. Like I said, it's a divinely guided relationship. And so another thing that's coming through here, I feel like person A has to see through their own ego. And once they see through their own ego, then they have to allow themselves to observe in the present moment how that ego is controlling or engaging in reaction and response, because what they say and do, and then their expectation or their reaction to what transpires is creating their suffering. Okay, and I feel like person B is having to see the potential within themselves of the fragmented self that they cannot see because they're too blinded, carrying the shame and seeing themselves from one fixed perspective. That the opportunity of what could be is just discounted. It's not even seen. And like I say, if you guys tie back to the channeled message, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time channeling, my God. If they tie back to the channeled message, they will see that the fragmented self is creating the distortion here, and that the opportunity for all that they are, the positive and the negative, exists. Then they are whole, and then they can integrate that fragmented self. Okay, but they have to be the ones to sort of take this responsibility within self to see both aspects, both polarities. So let's see, Spirit, what is it that pile 1 is needing to know here that might be missed in this connection? Pile 1 and this connection. Clear and concise message for the greatest and highest good of pile 1. Please protect me and the viewer as I channel this message for the greatest and highest good of pile 1. Thank you so much, Spirit, for this message. So we have the Knight of Feathers, and I do believe feathers is wands. Paul the Apostle says, at once he began to preach in the synagogue that Jesus is the Son of God. So I'm going to see that feathers is wands, just to be sure. Knight of Feathers. Oh, we have candles, so it could possibly be that candles. Yeah, candles is wands. Sorry, feathers is swords. I'll keep this here. Okay, so feathers is swords. So we have the Knight of Swords. All right. What is it that is coming through for this connection, Spirit, that might be missed? Knight of Swords, and then we have the Ace of Cups in reverse. Samaritan woman at the well. But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to the eternal life. Interesting. So Ace of Cups is all about self-love, self-worth. I need to confront, which is the self. It's nothing to do with external anything. And so, like I said, person B is fulfilling my external validation and external confirmation of they're pulling their self-worth and their meaning from external. Same with A, but in two different sort of ways here. Okay. So we have strength. Daniel in the lion's den. So strength to me talks about ego, but also the courage. Okay, we need the courage to go within. We need the courage to sit with self. We need the courage to ask the truthful questions within us. Okay. We have the high priest, Aaron, brothers of Moses. So this is the Hierophant in reverse. We need to see through the Hierophant, like we talked about. And then the 9 of Swords. Peter denies Jesus. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken. Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. Matthew 26:75. So 9 swords. In the mind prison. Okay. And then judgment in reverse. The last judgment. Fascinating. So bottom of the deck, we have the 10 of grains. God's promise to Abraham. All the land that you will see, I will give to you and your offspring forever. So grains is pentacles, I believe. Let me just make sure again. Yes. 10 pentacles. So let me sit here with this energy and channel the message to you guys. What's 10 under 10 grains? We have the Empress. Wow. Mary, mother of Jesus. We have the Empress and the High Priest. Okay. Beautiful angel. Spirit is talking about for both these people, it's sort of runs through one sort of main vein here, okay? Even though they're coming about it in two different ways, okay? One is pulling and one is overpouring, but the root seems to be the same sort of issue here. And the issue is all about self-love and self-worth and abundance, okay? And we have to find it within ourselves and give it to self, but we have to identify that the process we're using, the programming that's running us, is actually conditioned beliefs, and it's creating our suffering. And then it's the story we add to it in the mind that keeps it alive and keeps it sort of functioning. We have to undo those beliefs of how we're processing and programmed to act and engage in relationship, and why we do what it is that we do. And the only way to really do this is to be aware and present. What am I doing and why am I doing it? That doesn't mean stop, okay? Because we might not be able to stop, and the feelings are very intense. So we have to acknowledge. And when we acknowledge, we are now shining the light of awareness. And this takes a lot of courage to admit what I have been doing has not been working. What I have been experiencing has been fleeting. What I have experienced has been disappointing. And what I truly want is not in form. I don't want a person. I want love. I don't want a drink to make me feel happy. I want to feel love without external form. I want to connect to that of the divine. And when we truly understand what we're seeking is, in essence, love, and it is the essence behind the form, then we can start to see how we're acting is actually not cultivating that in which it is that we truly seek. And so as long as I'm on the search of form, I will never be fulfilled. And I will forever be sort of out there looking for the thing that might come and might not, and it's fleeting, okay? And so the first thing I must do is confront my beliefs, my programming, societal conditioning, upbringing, traditions, how I've been living my life, and what I think, what I put weight into what is right and what is wrong, what's worked for me and what isn't working, might actually not be in line with the actual absolute truth of the divine creator, which is everything, all infinity is possible. And the positive and the negative exist in all things, no matter how infinitesimally small, subatomic, tiny, and no matter how astronomical and large, it's going to contain both positive and negative and everything in between. And I could use my ego to select how I'm seeing this thing and remove what I don't want to see and only pull what it is that I want to see. And in reality, that brings everything with it towards me, but I'm not acknowledging or recognizing its wholeness. I'm only taking parts of this thing, and it keeps me in illusion, and it keeps me in fantasy, and it keeps me in this state of not connecting. So Spirit is really talking about the 3D world that we live in. We want to experience abundance in the 3D world. We don't want to sit like a Buddha somewhere on a hill saying, I connected to the essence, therefore I need nothing. I mean, that'd be ideal. Then we'd be at peace. But Spirit is saying we have to connect to being at peace with nothing in order for us to manifest the everything in the 3D. Because I think we want to manifest the everything and the happily ever after in this beautiful paradigm in the 3D without connecting to our own self-worth, without connecting to the essence in that in which is actually what we want. Then we can build the thing. But the rewiring of the mind needs to happen here because it's backwards. It's like first I'll seek the form, and then the happiness sort of comes, and then I can build it. It's like, no. First you connect to that essence within. And once you're vibrating that energy from within, then you attract. Like attracts like. And then it could build. But the other way around is what's creating the anxiety. I can't find the thing. I can't find the person. I can't find the thing. It's like, no, because it's within you. And you are whole within you. And you must embrace all parts of you. And like I said, when you embrace all parts of you, the positive and the negative, when it balances each other, that's divine order. Divine order is both halves, okay, or both sides, both polarities in balance, which is truth and love. And at the root of everything is that in which we seek is love. And so it's impossible for us to feel unworthy. It's impossible for us to feel lack and lonely. It's impossible for us to feel shame when we are truly in love, in the vibration of love. We cannot feel anything but love. And that is the true nature of who we are, but we don't see it because we haven't connected to it. Okay? And so there's this process of shedding what it isn't in order to make space for what is. And our divine nature is that of true, pure love and abundance. And we have both the masculine and the feminine that needs to come into divine order and balance for us to create our legacy, or in the 3D world, whatever we want to build. The building comes after the acknowledgement and the connection to the true essence here. Okay, and like I said, it requires a lot of courage here to reflect and sit on this and not have to try to get the external world to give it to me, because I am too ignorant to find it in myself, or I'm too blind to point the light within me, to shine it towards me. And so the habit is to then keep pointing our light outwards, and then be full of judgment and be full of like outward seeking energy. It's like, no, the only place we need seek is within self. Okay, so pile number 1, what a reading. I'll leave it here. And if you guys were drawn to another pile, I will see you guys there. Oh, no, actually, sorry, I forgot your guidance. And I was intending on doing this because I do feel this is, although the whole reading was about guidance. Let's close this reading off with some guidance for pile 1, Spirit. Guidance for pile 1. What are they needing to hear? What is the guidance here that's going to help pile 1? Regardless of sort of what side they fall on here, of what they're needing to acknowledge or understand or see or work through to free them from any sort of suffering, beliefs, illusions that need to be dissolved here, okay? Listen to life. I am attentive to the world around me. Signs and symbols guide me to success. I listen and discover the way to the eternal. Now, we can't hear over anxiety. We can't hear if we're not in the present moment. All we hear is the voice of the past. All we hear is the programming. And so in order to listen, we need to be in the present moment without any sort of past hindrances, okay? So if the shame is too heavy and the guilt is too heavy, I can't see life as it is. I can't be present in the moment, and I'm projecting with my distortions. So we need to be present. We need to listen to that which the Creator is trying to show us and tell us at every moment. Acceptance. I accept every step that life presents me without resistance. I try to find out what the universe is trying to teach me so I can grow. Thus, I advance in freedom on the path of light. So these are very much hand in hand. If we see the experience as it should be this way, it ought to be that way. I want it to be this way, but we're not dealing with reality. Reality is dealing with things as it is. That's acceptance. As it is right now, not as I will it to be or want it to be or it should be or how I think is the best thing. It's like, no, acceptance is reality. And when it's not feeling good, this means I have some form of potential resistance within me that is still needing to be understood by me. Because in our natural state, everything is acceptance because it's reality. When I have any resistance that I don't like, that means I'm resisting reality, and I'm in illusion, and I'm in fantasy, or I'm in avoidance, I'm in aversion to something, the real truth. And as long as you're doing this, you're not in line with the divine order and balance and harmony and reality. Okay? So, positive action. I focus on the beauty in me, and I find silence. I live and honor the present by doing what I can do now. What I cannot change, I let go and entrust to God. Again, this is this acceptance. Okay, what's that? The serenity prayer. Okay, accept the things I cannot change. And to know the difference between what I can and cannot change. Otherwise, we're in illusion and we're in fantasy, trying to make something out of a non-reality. Okay. And the worst is believing it to be true. And it's continuously reflecting back to us something that is disappointing, or it's not, or falling hard because we had one guise or one belief. Okay. And so we must be present. Okay. And so faith. I am confident I will achieve my goals. I live in the present and have faith in the future. I firmly believe in my value within the universe. So what's in the universe is within me. Just like I said in my channeled message at the beginning, even if it's a little dot in my localized being, I encompass all of the qualities, the positive and the negative of that of the universe. And when I'm in divine order and balance and I have a little distortion, I can see clearly reality as it is, and I feel whole and complete, and I can connect to my internal self. The minute I start to distort and have shadow, I'm not seeing the positive and the negative. I'm not in divine order and balance. And now I am creating suffering, and I'm creating beliefs that are actually not based in reality. And so I have anxiety. I can't trust that the future is going to go good. I'm going to have to want to manipulate and do things because the future is going to unfold however it does. That's reality. I have to accept reality. And the universe is perfect. There is nothing the universe needs the little I ego to do. The little I ego can do nothing. The universe is abundant. And that is where true reality is. And so we can either align with reality and truth and shed false beliefs and egos and condition and program and release that mind story, or we could stay in that illusion and the suffering and continue to sort of stay in the dream and not be in the present moment, but be in La La Land. Okay, so pile number 1, this is your reading. I hope this helped you, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye. Pile number 2, you guys picked Green Tara, Supreme Protection. You're protected. Cords are being cut. Move beyond limitation and trust. So we're going to take a look at person A and person B. And I do suggest you go listen to the intro, because you and the other person could be any sort of relationship or dynamic here, okay? This could be your high self, your low self. This could be you and a divine counterpart you haven't met. This could be whatever, an interdimensional being, someone who's crossed over. This could be your divine counterpart, your twin flame. It doesn't really matter. As long as it resonates for you, then this message is for you. If it doesn't resonate, it's not your reading. But you got to resonate with either A or B. And we're looking at sort of the spiritual progression or the spiritual lesson, or what's sort of unfolding spiritually on this journey between A and B. Okay. And I do suggest you go listen to the channeled message. Maybe I might reference it throughout this reading because it came through for a reason. Okay. And I referenced it for pile 1. So it might come through for you guys, but I don't know for sure. But one thing that was coming through was the karma. Okay. Like karma was coming through, especially with this cords being cut. It's almost like, in order for someone to sort of break free, a cord must be cut in some capacity. Now, I don't know if it's between these two, okay, because initially I was also getting there might be some history here that isn't all that great between these two, but let's see. So person A, we have the High Priest 9-9 with personal empowerment. And we have surrender your ego. Cultivate gratitude, be of service to others, and come from your heart. A big ego can work against you, but humility will further your goals. And we have passion. It says relationship trap, stress level 71 and 8. Intense fascination, ardent affectionality, impetuosity, I don't know, I cannot read. Exaltation, get carried away, irresistible attraction. Type 8, the challenger, instinctive center between strength and weakness. I don't think there's anything to cover here, but I'll just do that just in case. And then we have declaration of love, happy event growth level 87 and 6, opening one's heart, feelings is revealed, romantic message, love words, expressing love, unveiling one's love. Type 6, the loyalist, thinking center between mistrust and trust. And then we have aestheticism, a walking meditation, simplicity, ritual, fasting, mindfulness, solitary retreat, willful deprivation. Type 7, the enthusiast, thinking center between pleasure and pain, 43 and 7. And so we have some shadow here with this darkness, this black, and we also have the root chakra. Let's flip over person B. We have 1111, compassion and higher heart opening. And we have clarity, 28 and 1, quest for answers, concept of perfection, moral conscious, critical look, inner listening, access to pleasure, social involvement. Type 1, the perfectionist, instinctive center between control and letting go. And we have surrender to passion. Get out of your head and feel the fire in your belly. Focus on the people or activities that ignite your passion and let it flow. Interesting. Anger, 46 and 1. Aggressiveness, bitterness, fury, rage, irrational, bad mood. Type 1, the perfectionist, instinctive center between control and letting go. Sin, ego level, 46 and 1. And then mystical union, growth level, 97 and 7. Divine joy, emotional deepness, pain accepted, mindfulness, reflected back here. Contentment, I almost said confinement. Oh my goodness. Contentment, intense presence, and profound satisfaction. Type 7, enthusiast, thinking center between pleasure and pain. Wow, this energy is also coming through very strong and clear, but it's very layered, and I hope that I can do this service. So let me just sit here with this energy and then channel what's coming through. I think a lot of you guys are going to resonate with B, okay? So let's get some sort of signs out of the way. We have Virgo and Pisces, Cancer, Gemini, Capricorn, Leo, Aquarius, and Gemini, Virgo here, and Cancer, Pisces. Some of you guys might even resonate with this being your twin flame, okay? Because I'm seeing 1111. Feels very, very much like this sort of a thing happening here. And I'm also seeing mirroring happening here, which I was seeing in pile 1 as well. Okay, so mirroring just means there's like common reflections back to each other. Okay, that's reflecting deeper sort of truths from within that we're seeing in the other. Okay, it might be distorted. We might not even realize that it's within us, but it's being mirrored to us as a sort of a lesson, if you will. Okay, so I feel like between these two, there is sort of, if you want to call it like a bad blood in some capacity, because I feel like there's an experience. I feel like B had a poor experience with A as a result of A being sort of disconnected, okay, and fully in sort of some ego construct or belief here that has removed them from connecting to a certain part of themselves that would allow them to really dig into this truth of what love is and compassion. And it's almost like person A is sort of compartmentalized in some way, because I feel like person A is able to take action and do and say certain things and sort of disconnect themselves in a way, or they are already disconnected, I should say, from any sort of truer, deeper meaning. And so I do feel, okay, this is coming through for the most part. This doesn't have to be your story, but for the most part, I feel like person B trusted person A, and person A might have used person B sexually, physically, spiritually, however that they use them, or at least this is coming from person B's sort of understanding of it. Okay, and I'm not saying that that an experience didn't happen, and I'm not minimizing any action that happened. However, what I'm here is to dispel certain things that are creating distortions. Okay, there is only one objective truth, and that's God's truth. Everything else is a distortion, perception, and a relative truth from that person's perspective. Person A, and you can play that slowly, person A is, regardless of whether B's in their world or not, is having to connect to themselves when it comes to love. Okay, now I use love, and we have all a twisted view of what love means. For some people, love is transactional. For some people, love means a relationship. For love, no. I'm talking about God's love and truth. Okay, love. Expansive love based on no conditions, no fear. It's just love. But we need to connect to the love of self. If we don't connect to love of self, then there is no way we could love other unconditionally from the eyes of compassion and love. And unconditional love, like I say, requires no sort of transaction. Okay, it's not dependent on anything else. Okay, and so I feel like person A wants to, just like every soul would want to bond and connect to that. Okay, but we don't know what we don't know. And so when we're in ignorance here, we might do certain actions, certain actions without really tying into the consequences or really understanding a true sort of unfolding of who we truly are, our essence and our being. And I feel like person A was conditioned and programmed in a certain way that they developed an ego about them. Okay, which when it's an ego, it's in the shadow, and this shadow self is driving their actions. And so they're acting subconsciously. They're not consciously choosing to hurt anyone or use anyone or sexually exploit anyone or do anything other than it is that their human nature is wanting to bond and connect to this love that exists within them, but they haven't connected the pieces. It's fragmented. And the only way for A to put the pieces together is through a self-reflection and through a process of opening the heart space. To find their truest potential, they must connect to this through a process that's unique and special to them, although it's their own self that they need to connect with, which means it's a process within themselves. And so within themselves, they must do this process. Obviously, if they want to connect here, okay, now they don't have to do anything if they want to stay stagnant and if they want to stay stuck in a sleep. But in order for them to spiritually grow and open this heart space and connect to their potential, they have to connect all the fragmented parts within them. Okay, so now I'm being drawn back to these cords because I feel like this person is fragmented. And if you see a lot of like chopped cords, I don't know if that's the right terminology, if you will, to certain aspects of self. And I do suggest you go listen to that channeled message, because as long as we have parts of self that are in the shadow, which this person heavily does, then we're not in true reality of who we truly are ever, because we're never connected to it. And we have all these fragmented things that are sort of alive onto themselves, creating all sorts of action onto themselves without our conscious awareness. Okay, and so this divine experience, whether it be painful or seemingly undivine, especially for B, doesn't mean it wasn't divine. This divine experience, one, for A, I'll talk about B shortly, was for A to see their divinity and to connect to the love within, to reflect and open this heart space. Because I think when A was acting out of shadow and program, and acting in this way, they could just do it with no thought. There is no sort of, it almost seems like we could even say like a narcissistic. Where's the empathy? Where's the compassion? And it's like, if it's not connected to, and we were trained to say, hey, don't have feeling or no compassion. And so no one's going to tell us not to have compassion. But in how we're brought up or how we're like trained or conditioned or programmed, is all in the action. And it's like, if we do something that appears weak by societal terms or family or upbringing, and we get shamed for it, or we get told or conditioned that doing this is weak, or doing this is actually going to put you further down the totem pole, and to do that is going to give you strength, or to do the opposite is going to make you appear in a certain way. And so you're going to want to do what's going to make you appear stronger, or what's going to make you more desirable, or what's going to, create this illusion, if you will, of who you have to be. But it's removing you further and further and further away from your true identity. And so I do feel this is divine masculine energy. It doesn't have to be that's told to show an emotional side or to connect to this would be weak, or there's this coat that this person is wearing of a persona. And then this coat is taking action in all sorts of transactional actions. But the true core of this person, like anyone else, is still there. It doesn't disappear because we've been conditioned and programmed. It's just a whole bunch of programming and layers on top of the true essence. The true essence is love, compassion, empathy. Okay, it is divine truth. It needs to be seen and connected to. And this person, regardless of who they are, they desire this within them. And this is why they do these blind actions, because those fragmented parts are really wanting to be put back together with the whole. They don't want to be shunned. They don't want to be sort of out there on their own, and so there's certain parts of this person that took part in action here that they didn't understand the consequence, or they couldn't connect to the meaning behind it, the purpose and the truth of love behind it, and the essence behind it deeply, profoundly. And so this person is having to experience whatever they experience with B, I feel, because it's coming through in this reading. And it's almost like alchemize this distorted view and turn passion into like true compassion and love. Because passion, as we know, comes from this egoic place. There's nothing wrong with passion per se, because there's nothing wrong or right. But misguided passion, blind passion, is from ego. Centered truth and love comes from the essence and from the heart space. And so this person is firing from ego. Okay, they weren't firing from the centered heart place. And so I don't feel like person A has ever connected to true love. I don't think person A has ever really, really, truly felt love for another, love for self, which is very sad, you know? But we would never guess it based on this person's interaction, because they could be very passionate. They could be very interactive. They could be very attractive. They could be very powerful. They could be very magnetic. But it doesn't matter if they're all of those things. All of those things are if they're worn upon a coat, then the truest self is sort of covered underneath it, and no one can connect to it, including this person. And so if someone can connect to that part of themselves, of this person, through their own sort of realization or awakening, like I always say, like if person B was awake, if person B acknowledged a part of themselves, they're able to witness and observe in another. And so if person B observed and witnessed something in A that A had no idea that they had, and it's observed, it's like they have the potential and the opportunity to connect to it themselves. But if A never connect to it themselves, how could they possibly see it or give it? I'm talking about like unconditional sort of love here from a place, because when I say love, it's just love is unconditional. There's no need to say unconditional love, you know? In fact, I want to stop saying it. The only reason I keep saying unconditional love is because people have a distorted understanding of what love is. Love is truth, and truth with capital T is divine order. It is God. It is in the highest. There's no distortion and there's no shadow. It's not transactional and it's not based in fear. Okay, so this person needs to connect to this within self through a process. And so I feel like for these two, I do feel like there might be where A is sort of now getting real, if you will. And that process can look like anything. It could look like ghosting. It could look like hermit, meaning I'm pulled away, or I'm isolated, or I'm just not communicating, or I've abandoned you, or I fell off the face of the earth, or I'm isolated in some capacity here. But really what's happening is the repair, is the healing, is the connecting. Wherever the cord was cut within them is being repaired, generated, understood, developed, strengthened, braided, whatever you want to call it. And it must be done this way because this person must develop their own internal sort of center, compass, divine union within self, so that they could understand what that looks like and see it in other. Otherwise, they just keep firing on ego cylinders, if you will. Okay, so there was a false sense of empowerment that was driven from ego. And it gave this person, because out of a program and a belief, a false sense of power and control, meaning this is all they knew in order to stay in control or in charge or survive, because the ego is all about survival. This is how I survive. I must do this to survive. It was a survival thing. Okay. And so if we see it from this aspect, it doesn't condone any of the behaviors, but it really was a survival. But I don't think B sees it this way. B feels, like I said, maybe used and abused in some capacity at some point in time by A. And so I feel like B, okay, and I do feel B might have been here for some time with my readings, because I always say there's some sort of resentment and anger, and I keep getting comments, I'm not angry and resentful. Okay, when we carry any contracting energy that's not in divine love and accepting of the all, then we're still in the anger. And I highly suggest you go listen to, because I do feel a lot of you guys are B, to the channeled message. And I'm going to bring the paper only to show, and I know we listened to it so I can reference every single, like I say, okay, this is the infinite universe. This white piece of paper goes on and on and on and on forever. And we're all these localized little squiggles, dots, whatever our energy signature is. Okay, all the red here is pure universe expressed at that localized spot. Okay, here's Earth, here's like Pluto, I don't know, here's wherever in the universe, but it's all the divine creator because the creator created all of it. Okay, it doesn't matter where we fall or how we're squiggly or a line or a dot or tiny subatomical little part or we're the astronomical size of the sun. It doesn't matter. It creates both. It has and carries both polarities, negative and positive. If it's tiny, negative and positive. If it's astronomical, it's still negative and positive. And within it, everything in between. Okay? And so what's happening here with person number B in this anger, there is in the shadow a carrying of an untruth here. Okay, and the reason I'm saying it's an untruth is because the creator doesn't know of anger, doesn't know of any sort of like, yes, it's negative and positive, but the anger here, okay, the anger in one side is when it's carried and it's not seeing the other side here, the polarity of anger, and it's leaning in one direction, it's distorted. And so the job of person B is to find a balance between the negative and the positive to come into balance, and balance is divine order. So it's making order out of chaos. So as long as we're in anger, we're in chaos, we're distorted, we're imbalanced, and we're seeing it from a skewed perception, and we're not seeing the positive. So we cannot have a balanced perception. Okay, and balanced is love, it's divine order, and it's true. Imbalanced is distorted, and it's picking and choosing what it wants to see. Okay, and it's rejecting anything it doesn't want to see so it could support its story and its belief. So, for example, it wants to be in its illusion, and it wants to believe that the thing that I don't like, and then it supports all the reasons why it doesn't like it, and it minimizes any of the positive so that it could never experience that again. And the ego does this because it feels it's a threat. And so there's an aversion to threat. I must run faster than my predator. And this is why the ego keeps us alive. And so if I don't like this thing, my mind, my brain, whatever it is, it has to support this in the best way and magnify all the things I don't like. And I'm an illusion because what I'm failing to see is the balance in this thing. It's positive and negative. In fact, it's neutral. Okay, and I talked about the opposite of that. When we're pulled to something and we're infatuated with something, we tend to lean to all the things that are good. We don't see the things that are bad or negative, and we don't see it as neutral, and we're in fantasy, which is also illusion. And so to be truthful with a capital T to the creator, the divine creator, we must see neutrality as something that is neither good nor bad. We must take all and see it from that balanced perspective in order for us to then see the truth as it is, not through illusion and omitting. Okay, because either which way the mind wants to omit what it doesn't want to accept. And as long as we're omitting, then we're in shadow. And so all this to say, pile B, person B for pile 2, is projecting an understanding of their experience that they had. And they have a right to do this. They have a right to do this, okay? But does a right to do it mean that this person is actually seeing the truth as neutral as possible? No. This means person B is still an illusion, still carrying one understanding as the truth. It happened to me. This is what happened. Therefore, this is what it is. No. And so there are no accidents here by the universe. Person B learned a lot through this experience. I feel like person B is having to sort through this experience as something that is making them shift how they see themselves and how they see the universe and how they see other. And so as a result, when they're fully sort of healed and balanced and neutral, when they come to that point, they're going to have absolutely nothing but divine love and divine joy, that they're going to want to hug person A for liberating them. That there is no resentments and anger, that there is no you versus me, that there is just one divine creator. And now I see. And because of this, now I see. And so what the divine creator is also talking about is these experiences are done by design. And there's always this sort of polarity happening on planet Earth or in the universe. We'll say in the universe because it's beyond planet Earth. And it's like for every, book we write on like joy and happiness, someone else is writing a book on sadness and depression. But that everything that happens is in balance, divine order. And we could either lean into the chaos, lean into the illusion of fantasy, or we could be in divine truth and divine order. And it's up to us how we see it. And when we're in either polarity, we are in suffering because we're far removed from the truth. And so I feel like person B is being awakened to compassion, to love, opening their heart space, forgiveness, and understanding. And really, there is no forgiveness because in divine universe, there is nothing to forgive. There is just being. There's positive and negative polarity, and it's being. And when we accept the being, there is nothing to forgive. It's like trying to forgive something for what it is. There is no forgiving for what it is. It is what it is. And so I feel like person B, it might have been very rigid, might have been very attached to concept and idea, good, bad. This is me. This is who I am. I'm attached to this opinion of who I need to be or who I think I am. No. In the present moment, we're born neutral all the time. And so I feel like that understanding created limitation for person B, because I do feel, is it getting dark in here? It feels dark in here. I'll turn the light on. Give me a second. I'm turning the light on. I don't know if that helps, but it helps me. So there's an independent personal thing going on within each of these people. And as long as these two people are sort of underdeveloped in their ability to get balanced and neutral within themselves and see nothing but divine order and love within themselves and then within the other, despite what's happened, they're going to be distorted. And as long as they're distorted, they're sort of an illusion, like I say. And so the cord is cut between these two. Okay. And so, they're never really fully apart. They're always one and connected because we are all one. But the cord here, meaning these two can actually come together once they remove their distortion and their projections and their beliefs and their understandings that have been sort of put upon them. And I feel like I said, person A had this woven belief of how they had it to be and all of this prior to B coming on the scene. And it's sort of getting unwound as a result of this experience. And person B had also a belief of who they are and no one does this and this would be bad. And if I did that, then that wouldn't be me. And this would be bad. And this is how I should be. And anyone who does that would mean this and that and all sorts of those types of stories. And so when they had this experience, it's like, whoa, I just fell into something that I said either I wouldn't do or couldn't do or shouldn't do or some sort of thing here that I don't want to accept. And so instead of accepting and seeing that I am all, the positive and the negative, I carry this unacceptance of this part of me because I don't want to see it in myself. And I put blame or reject or put anger or upset at the other person rather than me sort of owning it, because I never owned it from the beginning. When I do good, bad, I'm rejecting a part that I don't want. It's like, this is good and that's bad. Don't want. I can only have this, don't want that. Avoid that, attain that. It's like, no, we're all things. There's nothing to avoid. There's nothing to refuse. There is just being in the present moment of whatever unfolds without saying shoulda, woulda, couldas, and oughtas, because then we're not in reality. And so person B has to go through a spiritual unfolding, if you will, through a painful process, and identifying where they got in their own way, where they're sort of being sticklers in some way here from the full truth of who they are and the whole truth, that they're everything, the dark and the light, and to accept the pain as part of the whole and integrate it and become balanced and neutral and drop any angers and resentments in order for them to be free and for them to see divine order and balance. And in order for them to be in the present moment with the present moment rather than be in the present moment with the past or with the story or with the judgment or with the belief, because then it's distorted and then they're not very clear. They're just sort of listening to the old self and the paradigm of the past. And so I feel like this person's inner guidance system and their inner compass is the cause of their suffering. Because if their inner compass and their inner voice was clear and was more in reality, God's reality or the truth reality as it is, not as it ought to be, what they think it should be and what's good and bad, then they would have prevented this negative experience or this pain or the suffering. And so the sooner this person B can get closer to truth, the sooner they're sort of free this resentment, this anger, this bad experience that they had. And this is truly a heart opening, because the heart doesn't know of angers and resentments. The heart only knows of one way, which is like this open, expansive energy. Love is expansive. It's outward. Anger is the opposite. It's inward. It's taking, it's keeping. So let's take a look at the tarot and see what Spirit wants to communicate, okay? Because I do feel like person B might feel like they need to protect themselves, or have a boundary. And I always talk about these things, and it's like people always talk about these boundaries. And I know I posted the thing about masculine and feminine and healthy boundary. And I do that because it really depends on where we're at with our healing. Do we need boundaries? When we're healing, when we're at a certain state of our ascension, because we're not quite at a place where we understand and have worked through the fact that we actually don't need a boundary, because there is nothing that could pull at us or contaminate our divine nature. And so when we're triggered, when we feel anything contracting, that is coming from within. That is not coming from someone else doing anything to me. And as long as we think it's someone else that could have this much pull to me, then sure, have your boundary. Because we're incapable of being trauma-free, because we're still living in illusion. But when we're in complete reality, as it is, not distorted, not as we wish it to be, then we don't need a boundary, because reality is as it is. God put me in reality. I accept reality as it is. And God's universe is perfect as it is. Now, this doesn't mean I have to partake in anything I don't want to do, but I'm not pulled by my emotions unregulated, making me feel anger, making me feel sad, making me feel like judgment, making me feel any sort of intense ways, unless I'm cultivating that from within me because it hasn't been healed. And then I need a boundary. I need to stay away from this person. I need to, and so I feel like these two people are sort of apart here because of some sort of need to protect, but there's nothing really to protect. There's just leaning into the truth of the reality with the eyes of love and acceptance. And that's the healing, because where will the anger go? Nowhere. We just forever hold it until, it becomes an old story, if it ever becomes an old story. And it might never. We might go to our grave still upset about that person did that and that happened and that was the truth. It was my truth, it's my experience. But the sooner I tap into reality, it dissolves. The sooner I can connect to that in which we both house, because both these people house the exact same thing, the divine creator and its perfection, the positive and the negative. Both these people carry both. So whatever's in A is actually in B. Whatever's in B is actually in A. But yes, A was in this ego shadow, but person B also has a distortion of shadow, which is also ego until they see it, because there's no way to feel anger unless we're in an ego. Love doesn't feel anger. Ego feels anger. Shadow feels anger. Distortion is anger. Okay, so Spirit, what is it that pile number 2 needs to know about this divine union or this experience or this connection? Anything I'm missing here for the greatest and highest good of pile number 2. Please protect me and the viewer and this connection as I channel this message for the greatest and highest good. Now, what's really standing out here are the doves behind these cards, because I feel like, I don't know, this connection is something about making peace. And both people sort of have to make peace with themselves before they can sort of have peace with each other, you know? And peace is already there to be had. That's in reality. And we choose to stay out of peace. We choose to be in illusion. We choose to stay in whatever state. But Spirit is saying peace is already there. Peace is here to be had. Okay? Whether we're ready to embrace it or not, that's the ego that still wants to be victim. That's the ego still wanting to hang on to the illusion, the fantasy, or the resentment and the shame. Because shame is the only reason why we would resent anything. Okay? Shame, guilt. So at the bottom of the cup, we have the 8 at the bottom of the cup. At the bottom of the cards, we have the 8 of cups, 8 of chalices, okay? So it says, after he said this, he was taken up before their very eyes, and a cloud hid him from their sight. All right, let's keep going. So 8 of cups is walking away. 8 of grains. So we have 2 8s. 88's a master number. A higher calling that is grounded in self-awareness and reverence for life. What did I say? Both these people need to become self-aware of the truth of reality, not the distorted understanding of their relative perspective, but the actual truth, okay? So 8 of grains is 8 of pentacles, and it says the craftsman. It says, so Beziel Oholiab, and every skilled person to whom the Lord has given skill and ability to know how to carry out all the work of constructing of sanctuary are to do the work just as the Lord has commanded. All right. Now, if you don't like my tarot deck, then you can go someplace else. Okay? Just so you know. So 8 of pentacles. This is doing the work. Okay? This is like a consistent effort that we're putting in our day in, day out in order to have a result in the 3D. Okay, and this is a walking away. And so it's really fully coming through before I even channel anything else. There is this, either I'm in line with reality and then I start to manifest in the 3D as above, so below. Or, because free will is mine, I could just sort of detach, uncord myself, unplug myself, accept my delusion as reality, and then go on to the next thing and not heal nothing. The choice is mine. The one will fix it in a way that allows me to be in line with truth and reality and seeing what I haven't seen before. And the other just puts me in another situation where I still haven't accepted and seen reality, and I still think that I'm right or that I'm correct or whatever. But then I'm still in some sort of illusion with all this cloud. And I'm speaking about person B because I think I'm talking to B. Okay? I'm not saying A did was right. I'm totally committed to the true healing and liberation of the pain and suffering that's created here. And so as long as we stay in confusion, illusion, okay, or I should say, as long as we stay in illusion, we're still in confusion, okay, and we are choosing to do so. And we might argue against it. Who would choose that, you know? Because the pride and the ego is too big to accept that we could be all things like this person. The ego does not want to be all things. It's going to want to resist. And that is why. Because we don't want to accept the shame. And we want to shun away from anything dark within us. I'm not those things. I am good. I am light. I am light and love. No. I hate to bust it to you, but you're all things. And that you have the propensity and the capacity, and most likely have done something in this sort of realm that you're not seeing or accepting in self, that someone else could project onto you. Alrighty. So now we have the Two of Candles. This is two wands. Elijah on the Mount Carmel. It says, Elijah went before the people and said, how long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him. So this is in reverse. Remember I said two. Now we're seeing this. And I think with this Two of Wands in reverse, if we don't even understand, if we're not even conscious of what it is that I'm saying, because this reading isn't for everyone, but if you're conscious of what I'm saying, now we know we have a choice and a decision and another option. It becomes a decision. But when we're like this, it's like it's not even a no-brainer. I did nothing wrong. I have no shadow. I'm all good. And this person is just ego and blah, blah, blah. And now here I am in my little illusional bubble. And yeah, I do feel like my channeled message was for this pile. Because I think there's a reality check here. And this isn't victim blaming or shaming. This is saying we're in delusion when we think we only house the positive based on an experience with the person and that the other person houses the negative or the thing that we don't like. It's like, no. Both people have the negative and the positive, and there's a choice right here, right now, in order to get real or stay in fantasy illusion. All right, so 10 swords. Yeah. So it says Samson loses his strength. After putting him to sleep on her lap, she called for someone to shave off the 7 braids of his hair, and so began to subdue him, and his strength left him. Judges 16:19. 10 of Swords. Cutting the braids as he sleeps. So braids, well, hair is a symbol of strength. Okay, so when one's hair is cut, it's like our strength has been removed. Okay, but the strength card for me is ego, and also hair for me represents ego. And I feel like there was a betrayal here done by ego. And unbeknownst to the sleeper, And so there's so many layers here that I can unpack for hours. The sleeper. Now, when we are asleep, we can't get blamed for being asleep, right? But this could be synonymous from we're not awakened to the consciousness here. And so just because someone with ego acted deceivingly with the sword and chopped the hair here, it might have impacted our confidence. And we could say, but I was asleep. I did nothing wrong, And it's like, yeah, but at the same time, the ego is acting in sleep mode. It's a different form of sleep. Both people share sleepness in different formats. And both people have the ability to wake up to higher states of consciousness, to know that they are asleep and to snap out of it and know what's going on here, rather than blaming other and rather than saying, well, I was acting blind, And that is great truth, because I feel like there's an ending here. There is a creation of suffering here because of how we're seeing it and engaged, and how the other person was the taker of my strength or the taker of something from me. They took something from me, be it my confidence, be it my happiness, be it my joy, be it my understanding of myself, be it something that they took from me. No, they did not. They could not, unless you believe that there is something to be taken of yours, which there isn't. Okay, 9 of Swords in reverse. It says Peter denies Jesus. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken. Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. Matthew 26:75. So this is the dark night of the soul. This is being in our minds, being limited by our own thoughts. And remember what I said about this 8 Pentacles. Sorry, I'm going to have a drink. The real work is undoing where the obstacle is. And the obstacle is in my belief. Because I'm limited as long as I have this distorted perception. As long as I carry the shadow and act as though it's true, and the ego's going to want to justify why that shadow is true or why my perception is right and everyone else's isn't. It's like, no, you can't argue with the universe. The universe says the law of polarity. Positive and negative exists, both sides of everything, no matter how small or how big. And so we can't pick and choose and block out the other part and say that's reality. It's like, no, that's not reality. We must see all of it in order to be actually in line with seeing reality as it is. And so we could choose to be asleep, or we could choose to be in reality. This means I am asleep, and working towards waking up is definitely within our ability. And the only way for us to see another way through, another option, would be to wake up and to break out of the limiting thoughts and the limitation. Because as long as I believe my limiting and my shadow self, then I can't see another way, another path. It's blocked. I don't understand it. I can't see it. I can't move beyond what it is that I know. And so therefore I only know one thing, to walk away or to be in my shadowy clouds. That's all I know. And Spirit's saying there's another way. And the ego's going to want to fight this. It doesn't want the other way. It doesn't want to just let someone off scot-free because they done me dirty. That's ego. Okay, that's not coming from heart. And what do we see here? Heart opening. The heart doesn't hold resentments. The heart doesn't hold any blames. The heart doesn't point the finger. The heart holds no judgment. Everything is positive and negative. Alrighty, so we have the Four of Feathers, which is the healing card, okay? Elijah's retreat into silence. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. So this is why there's sort of this parting, if you will, There's a need to heal the ouch. And the ouch isn't just going to, like when people say time just heals, it's like, yeah, it's not as intense because I don't feel it as intensely. But if we don't undo the belief, if we don't make a conscious effort to undo this belief, this will never become an available option. And I don't know what is going to be available option of this wand. If this is a divine counterpart, and we are talking about divine counterparts here, for some of you guys, not all of you guys, for some of you guys, there could be a union here. Okay? And if our ego is too stuck in its way, and we're thinking that person needs to work on their ego, And meanwhile, the ball is in our court to see this two wand. And we could just sit here in time forever, forever, forever. It's never changing. No, because we are the ones with the ability to get in reality and to remove limiting thoughts and to heal this with conscious effort. It takes conscious effort. It's just not going to happen over time, slowly but surely, The devil. Satan tempting humans to sin. So, Capricorn energy here. Beautiful angels. Need I say more? It is felt throughout this whole reading. Devil, shadow, ego, subconscious drivers here. Okay, and as long as we carry them, we're chained by that. It's not liberating and free. And even though the ego wants to kick and scream and not do anything different and still be right or still hang on to the idea it has in order to self-preserve itself, it's bound to this devil. It won't feel liberating and free. You'll always feel heavy. You'll always feel like I still carry this belief, this anger, this shoe won't drop. The only way to harmonize and really truly be with this divine joy, this deep emotional happiness, this pain is accepted, it's been transmuted, I've been balanced, I've been worked through, is the only way for me to see this other wand sort of appear, because now I'm conscious to see the other wand, which means I now engage differently. The world is different. I see it in reality. We have to be cognizant of the devil, and both people are in devil. And I feel like this message is specifically for B, because I feel like B thinks they're not in devil. And I'm here to say they are in devil, because the devil is actually controlling them right now. Their perception of what their reality is, that they think is what's real, is actually the devil. It's keeping them stuck to that paradigm, that belief. It's limiting. And this needs to be healed in a way here through true transmutation. And we see the fire here in the middle, which is talking about transmutation. Otherwise, it just sits fragmented. The resentment sits somewhere in the pocket, in the shallow, in the cellar, and I don't transmute it. I just sit with it. I have an understanding. It's like an understanding is one thing. A transmutation of that energy is another altogether. Like an alchemist, what do we do with it? Where does it go? Okay. And so I do feel like these two people are apart. And I feel like there's an ability, if one wants, to have another option available. And even if there is no desire here, after the transmutation, there's the liberation of another path that's free. You know, that's blocked right here. It's not seen, it's not understood. As long as this sort of false understanding keeps perpetuating, it's creating limitation. Okay, I hope this made sense to you guys. Now let's pull some guidance. Although definitely that did feel like guidance. For pile number 2, I do feel I'm reading for B, but let's see. What is the guidance here for pile 2, Spirit? Guidance, advice for pile 2. Guidance, advice for pile 2. One more. Guidance and advice for pile 2, Spirit. 2 more. Okay. Inner work. What did I say? And look, this looking to me like a lot of this fiery energy. Okay. So God brings me ideal situations for my inner healing. As I become aware of my weakness, I turn them into strengths. Oh, we had strength there, didn't we? I thought we did. Maybe that was pile 1. Okay. I direct my thoughts towards the light and I see the positive side of every stage of my life. Darkness turns into courage, thus I get stronger. So I see the positive as well as the negative. And remember what I said about that channeled message. When we are feeling this, repulsed, don't like, it's like resistance of this thing. We magnify the stuff we don't like. We don't see the positive. And everything has positive and negative. Okay, but of course it's your choice. But then it's your choice to sit in suffering. It's your choice to sit with devil and be limited and see things from a distorted view and not from reality. Of course it's your choice. Sit in illusion. Sit in fragmentation. Sit in unbalanced, unhealed. So this inner work is about transmuting this energy, this anger, this resentment, or this whatever we're carrying that doesn't feel like it's coming from the heart. It's not emanating out. It's pulling inwards. It takes inner work. It has nothing to do with anyone out there or what they're going to say or whether they apologize or whether they do this or they do that. No, this is inner. Okay, being true. I am true to myself and others. I remove my mask and stop creating illusions. Okay, I know some of you guys think, I don't know, if you think that I'm just like blowing smoke or making up this shit, I'm telling you. Okay, we're in illusions when we're not based in reality here. And person A was wearing this mask that they believed was them. Okay, I have confidence in who I am and I reveal the good in me. I do not need to hide or prove anything. I replace shame with the power of love and truth. Remember, when we are like this, we're denying a part of ourself that we don't want to see in this thing. I don't have that. I'm far from that, so I don't want to see it. I'm repulsed by it. I don't want to identify with it. Meanwhile, it's like, no, we're all things, because remember I said we're all these things. That the divine creator, no matter how the dot is, how small or how big, it's like we encompass all of that. And so to encompass all of that means not to reject any part of it. Okay, but when we are in this energy, it's like, yeah, we're rejecting that part of ourself. And so Spirit is saying that is a mask we can wear here by not accepting the good with the bad, okay, or the positive with the negative, and we stay in a state of illusion and darkness. But I feel like the messaging here for person A is this mask that person A wears because they're trying to prove something that was told them that they had to be. You must be like this to be strong, to survive, or to be good, or to be admired, or to be liked, or to be appreciated, or to exist. You must do this. It's like, okay, then I believe I have to do that, and I do it long enough, and then I think that's me. And that's what I do. I keep doing that thing, even though it's not me. I'm not being true to who I really am. I've already covered it up with who I'm not. Okay, the path to light. I make the conscious choice to move towards the light, one step at a time. I transform my weakness into strengths by mastering my thoughts. I overcome obstacles with positivity and acceptance. I develop my gifts and extend my light to every being unconditionally. Unconditionally. Not only if you do this, not only when you apologize, not only when you treat me right, not only, there's no condition, okay? Affirmation. I listen to myself and acknowledge my needs. I assert myself and retain my power. I am brave and gentle. I don't have to be afraid of others. I respect myself and I am respected by others. Beautiful. We can take a snapshot and do this affirmation. Okay, courage. So this is that strength we were talking about with the braid. Yeah, that's why I felt strength here. I was pointing here. I thought it was in pile 1, strength with the hair. Okay, with the braids. So courage. I am stronger than fear and I am bigger than doubt. I am light and I remain light. I trust in God and stand tall before the tests of life. I grow and become wiser through every challenge. I am a being of new life. Oh my goodness. This is totally it, you guys. I don't know if I got goosebumps here. This experience, this was a test of experience in order for there to be new life. And I do feel new life for both. Okay, but person B, opening this heart space, being born again would mean what? How they perceive the universe through the eyes of real rather than fragmented. That's giving this person a whole new meaning of life because now they could see the other wand where they couldn't before. Okay, and person A is being reborn because they're taking off the mask for the first time based on their experience, which is making them reflect on their truest self, which takes a lot of courage here. So they could be reborn and now live in the universe, acting in a way that's closer aligned to their truest self. Wow. Okay, joy. Divine joy. Like a child, I discovered joy in the simplicity of life. Happiness lies in magical moments, not in the material. Even the smallest joy is a great source of light. So we cannot see the joy when we're distorted, when we're thinking how things should be, could be, would be. It's like, no, when we're present with what is, and we get to experience true joy. Okay, and I'm going to read this one again because it says emotional deepness. We can't get deep here, and we can't connect to the heart space as long as we're carrying this. Because this would be opposite. It's pushing out. It's like rejecting it. Okay. It's like, I don't want to see that. And so I resist it. Pain accepted. So I must integrate the pain, mindfulness, contentment, intense presence, and profound satisfaction. Beautiful angel, this is your reading. I hope this helped you. I hope this didn't trigger you too bad. And I will see you at the next one. Bye-bye. Hello, gorgeous angels. Pile number 3. You guys pick hope, love, and acceptance. Love is yours. Recognize your divine worth. Choose loving thoughts. Beautiful. I love the energy coming from this card. Feels like the sun. I've got a very warm energy here. So we're going to look at you versus them. Okay, now who is them? This definitely could be your divine counterpart, your twin flame, higher level soulmate. This could be 2 aspects of self. This could be anyone or anything at all. It could be someone you haven't met that you're aligning with. Okay. Keep an open mind here, but don't force anything to fit. Okay. If it doesn't resonate, it's not your reading. You should either fall with side A or side B as your energy. Okay. So we're looking at the spiritual journey between these two so that we get a better understanding of how to navigate to this soulful spiritual journey. Okay, so I do suggest you guys go listen to the channeled message at the beginning in case it gets pulled through this channel and this message. So person A, we have 1010, practice self-love, nurture your inner child. All right, and then we have surrender to the wisdom of your body. Listen to your body's message about a person or a situation. If you feel physically drained or uncomfortable, be cautious. If you are energized and happy, move forward. Interesting. And then we have sin 53 with ego level. Lust. Oopsie. A lot of this debauchery happening here. It says lust. Sleeping around, debauchery, libertinism, pornography, sexual pleasures, taking advantage of. Type 8, the challenger, instinctive center between strength and weakness. Number 8. And then we have affair, 44 and 8. So 88 is a master number, higher calling that is grounded in self-awareness and reverence for life. Okay, 44 could be an age, or you might be seeing lots of 4s. Okay, or you could be seeing eights as well with the 8844. Could be an angel number 8844 or 4488. So it says affair, love, conquest, passion, ideal, fling, romance, and romantic encounter. Type 8, the challenger instinctive center between strength and weakness. Look at all this white energy, which I'm getting the pure self. Okay, and then we have 40 and 4. Spiritual practice, ego level, art therapy, dream interpretation, abundance diary, sharing circle, personal diary, spiritual reading, expressive dancing. Type 4, the individualist emotional center between lack and abundance. I haven't seen this card. Interesting. So 4 is a number of stability. More 4s. We see 3 4s here, or 4 4s. 4 4s. Wow. Okay. So let's see. Person B. 1111, take me home. Pathway to true love. Wow. Some of you guys could definitely resonate with the twin flame with the 1111 here. Surrender comparisons with other people. Keep your eyes trained on yourself. Focus on your own strengths, attractiveness, and power. And we have the third ego level, 7 and 7. 77, master number. Trust the fall and adventure that arises from deep wisdom, trust of life, and trust of self. Unknown sweetheart, couples intruder, the other lover, the outsider, mistress lover, the official spouse. Type 7, enthusiast thinking center between pleasure and pain. Interesting, because we had this affair, but also this like lust thing. And this is like outsider, other lover. All right. And then we have 10 and 1. It says temporality, ego level in advance, earlier than expected, got ahead, proceeded early, prematurely, before the hour. Type 1, the perfectionist instinctive center between control and letting go. And we have instability, 70 and 7, relationship trap. Look at this, all these 7s. Okay, 77. Like I said, trust the fall and adventure that arises from deep wisdom, trust of life, and trust of self. It says instability, taste for novelty, need of change, fickle lightness, inconstancy, fear of boredom. Type 7, enthusiast thinking center between pleasure and pain. All this green ray, which is the heart chakra. And then we have being responsible, 54 and 9, purification path, taking immediate action, realizing your dreams, accepting losses, managing conflicts, welcoming emotions, taking a clear position. Type 9, the peacemaker instinctive center between forgetting and asserting oneself. Wow, 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 wow. Today's readings are insane. Okay, let me sit here with this energy and then begin to channel. Okay, pile number 3. This is intense, this reading, okay? So a few things here that could resonate for you. It doesn't have to be everyone's message. I did get that some of you guys might have the name Hope, okay? Or like a sister, or like know someone named Hope. And take that as confirmation here, okay? Now for signs, there's Aries, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, and Leo. I just keep saying the same thing. And Aries, if I didn't say it. Okay, over here we have Cancer and Virgo and Gemini pulling through on side B. I think a lot of you guys might be B, okay? And like I said in the card layout, there's 1111. So this could be a twin flame journey if you resonate with that sort of type of soul connection going on. Okay. So where do I unpack this thing? Oh my goodness. Person A. Person A is a little unruly over here. Okay. Really unruly. I think they're doing physical action. And physical action might to them just be, well, it's just physical action, you know? Knowing little about energy and little about what they're actually doing, because here it says debauchery, pornography, sexual pleasures. We have affair here, and it seems as though they're just sort of acting without consequence. This person could be with multiple partners. They just sort of separates sex or physical activity in some way like this, separate from consequence and true, like deep spiritual sort of truths, you know? But why they're doing this is not because this person is misguided in a way here, because this person has to connect to a certain part within themselves. This is the inner child. Okay, and so when the inner child is abused or neglected or has any sort of wounding or trauma, it fragments, and then it just runs our whole sort of subconscious actions, and it runs our life in a way that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, and so everyone's true essence is that of the divine creator, which is whole and complete and feeling love. And when we are fragmented, we don't feel whole and complete and loved. And so I will do whatever it takes for me to feel whole and complete and loved. And so if I do the action here, then that's the only way that I'm able to convince myself that I'm partaking in this whole and completeness of this physical action. However, it obviously isn't generating that whole and completeness from within me. And so this person is having to really learn about self-love that is cultivated and generated from the inside, not from external physical sex and validation. Now, if it's not sex here, which I feel a lot of you guys it is, it could be somebody who's cheated, okay, or somebody who just has a lot of people around them and is choosing the very, 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 very superficial path. And this superficial path, they could justify this and they could completely think that they're in the right or just be doing this thing completely sort of seeming as though they're blind and inconsiderate of what's going on with B. And so A is learning to channel this energy, okay, because they could still like take from the external world certain things that they need, okay, but it's not going to build upon who they are innately. This is something that, like I say, is cultivated from the inside when they connect to themselves and heal this inner child. When they listen to the inner child, when they know why the inner child is doing what it's doing, this person has no understanding of why they're doing what they're doing. Now, they're not going to say, I don't know why I'm doing it. They're going to say, because it feels good, because it's me. But that's an illusion. It's like, no, it's not you. And the feeling good is a superficial goodness here that's just covering up this inner child's action. And so this person, they could be artistic here, have some sort of creative side to them for sure. But this person, if they were to channel their energy towards something outward pouring, art, music, dancing, whatever this thing is, even like spiritual practice in a way, they could really connect to this inner child of theirs. And over time, there's this healing that happens with this ability to come, like if they can show from within them and express this in way of art, in way of like outward emotion of energy, they start to convince themselves and see that beauty within them. Then they're not needing to seek that. They're not needing to attach to that. They're not needing to fill that void of it because they're generating. So as source, we're all mini creators. We have the ability to create whatever we desire from within and put it out into manifest. Okay, so I'm able to create that song or that art, and I'm the creator of that thing, and now it's in the 3D. Just like a mini God, I'm creating this thing in the 3D, I'm manifesting this thing, and the more I create, the more I'm seeing that I have that within me to create that beautiful song or that beautiful art or that beautiful thing. Okay, but if I'm not, and I'm taking and I'm experiencing debauchery and sort of superficial activity, it's like I'm lacking and I'm trying to fill this void within me that actually is there. Okay, and so I feel like A is very much in this matrixy, superficial sort of energy here, and they're being called to their spiritual chakras. They're being pulled to a more spiritual, deep, profound connection with that of them and the divine here, through healing of their inner child, through knowing that there is a deeper spiritual truth that runs deeper than the superficial matrix, that they're not just their body, that what they do with their body is tied to their spirit, is tied to everything. It's all interconnected. And so we can't divide the two. What I do with my body doesn't really matter so much as long as, my feelings are separate or my spirituality is sort of separate or done or my values are different. It's like, no. The indicator of what we truly believe and value is reflected on what we do and our action. And so their action here is shallow. Their action here is not good, It seems very materialistic and shallow, and it seems void of spiritual truths and deeper connection and all of this stuff. And it's a coping mechanism here because the inner child is very hurt. And so I don't know how this inner child got hurt. It got sexually abused. It could be emotionally abused. It could have been completely neglected here. And so there's a practice of self-love that comes online through this person connecting with their heart, their mind, and their body and their spirit, all sort of in unison here through a practice. Okay. And so I feel like person B is sort of bringing this spiritual energy around for person A to sort of see this within themselves, because I do feel like person A is definitely houses higher spiritual truths. And I feel like person A might have a very deep, profound love for person A. Sorry, person B might have a deep, profound love for person A. Okay, because love is blind. We don't choose, well, I'll love this person because it's easy, and let me not love that person because it's going to be too hard. Okay, I just won't love him. No, because love, and like I said in the other pile, I'm going to stop saying unconditional love, true love, blah, blah. Love is love is love is love. As long as we understand what love is unconditional. Love is not fear. Love is truth. Love is God. There's only one love, Everything else is fake love, false love, fear-based love, transactional love. It's not even love. It's illusion, it's ego, it's shadow, it's condition, it's programming. And so when there is an understanding of love of another, we see the creator in another, we see ourselves in another, we see the divine truth, the wholeness of the other, despite in the 3D world, the actions and all of this debauchery and all of this stuff. Person B sees this. Okay, but person B is still human, and person B can't help but carry a weight. And what they weigh here on them is this, it says comparison here because they can't help but feel like, why is my great truth and my strength and my spiritual knowing not enough here for there to be a manifestation in this 3D world that reflects this great truth? And so they can't help but feel like their beloved, the person that they connect and love, is not acknowledging them or seeing them. And it's like, what is it that this other world, this ego world or this illusion world, this less satisfying world has that I don't have and that is able to keep you there? And so person B feels like their connection with A is disappointing and fleeting. They feel like they're not totally connected to A because A won't allow it. And B doesn't want to be just a third wheel or like superficially bound or tied. They want to share deepness and wholeness. And I feel like person B is just experiencing an understanding of a greater truth earlier than person A. That's all it is. But B might not see it this way. That person B is just spiritually more developed faster. And like this, now I know why I channel this thing. Okay. Remember I said the divine creator is all abundant infinity. This paper goes on and on and on and on forever. We can't see no beginning and no end. That's what this white paper is. It's the divine creator. It's all infinity abundance. And we are a localized little whatever in this universe. We could be the universe, a planet in the universe, okay, so astronomical size, or we could be a tiny little thing, on Earth. And it doesn't matter the size of that localized thing. It carries both the negative and the positive polarity, no matter where it is. Okay, and in order for us to be with reality, we see both the negative and the positive in a balanced state. We see both aspects, and then we see reality as it is. Now, if we cannot see a certain part of the reality because it's in the shadow, we don't understand it, we distort it, we become selective, which the ego wants to do. It only wants to see a certain part. That was this part. Okay, and so we idolize someone. We're pulled, we're infatuated with something. Okay, and so we do this, and it becomes a fantasy when we only see the good and we omit to see the negative polarity, because everything has positive and negative polarity to see it clearly. And so to depolarize this pull and to depolarize this sort of understanding and to come out of fantasy, we have to get back to neutral and say this person, place, thing, whatever, also carries this more negatively polarized energy. And vice versa. If we're here It's like we don't want to see anything of the positive of the thing that we don't want to see. We neglect to see any positive in this person or the situation or circumstance because we have an aversion to it. It's just distasteful. But what we need to accept is that we, in order for us to become balanced, we have to accept that we are both. Not only do we need to see both, we are both. We are both the negative and the positive polarity. And what we see in other, we carry in self. And when we reject it, it's out of shame, it's out of guilt, it's out of fear, and we don't want to accept and see it within self. And when we see something we like about someone else and say, oh, I could never do this, or I admire this in this person, this isn't me, or we put them on a pedestal, we're not seeing that great truth about ourselves. And so it's like we're too humble, we don't want to see that. But yet the truth is we're all things. We're all things in this universe. And so that dot is going to contain everything of that universe. Obviously not that whole white paper, but everything that universe contains is within that one little localized thing. It contains all of it. On a smaller scale, of course, but it contains all of it. And so when we neglect part of that, it's now distorting. Okay, it's not balanced. And so all this to say, person B is distorted. And why they're distorted here is because they're projecting something about themselves that is lacking or that can't be good enough or that is not seen or understood. And it's like devaluing them in some sort of way, or that there's some sort of need here that's going unfulfilled. Meanwhile, it's just acknowledging reality that person A is behind spiritually and is having to heal and understand this sort of thing. And so the only reason why B would feel sort of let down or third wheel or incomplete or not whole is because person B doesn't fully accept the negative and the positive within themselves, that they are all things, that they could be this thing as well. Now, does this mean that they're also debaucherous and have to sleep around? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. And if that's what you hear, then this consciousness is above your level of understanding here, and so play it back. What this means is that we have the propensity of all things because we're the creator. We're an extension of the creator. We have positive and the negative and all aspects. And when we refuse to see that we also carry the shadow, that we also have all of those aspects within self, and we refuse to accept it, we create distortions and projections, and we start to create a version of us who we think we are in the eyes of some ideal thing. But that's only our own opinion, our own judgment, our own perspective. And then we treat everyone from that sort of point of view. And so we start to resist what we don't like, what we think is bad. And then we attach and we idolize the things that we think is good. And then we stay in a state of suffering, and we're either in fantasy illusion or we're in resistance illusion. And we're everywhere but the present moment of reality and what is. And so reality of what is the thing that's difficult to do, but to broaden our consciousness means I got to see it in myself, that I am the positive and the negative polarity, and my innate value and self-worth has absolutely nothing to do with, my wholeness has nothing to do with what is not in my life, who's missing from my life, who's showing me, who's showing up, who's coming, and doing whatever I think I need, because that is all distorted thinking. And so there is no need to feel lack. Okay, so I feel like with this in advance, I feel like person B is understanding a greater, deeper truth of the reality of this situation, and is more in line with this understanding. But at the same time, they're rejecting what also is a reality. And what's a reality is we also carry this negative polarity that is allowed in God's perfect universe. And when we find balance between the two, we come into perfect divine order. That is love, God, truth, perfect divine order. We're no longer in chaos. And chaos is in fantasy and illusion, or in the suffering state and the resistance and the avoidance and the void. So balance is love, to see the great reality, truth, God's universe as it is. We find harmony here. We find peace here. We find order here. Okay, and so until B tends to find some sort of order, they're going to compare or feel like they're without, or like they're some sort of lacking or some form of instability here, or a need for something to present itself to them. That's like, no, they just need to tap into it within themselves, that whole other side that they're resisting to see or not acknowledging. And so I think that B needs to accept, okay, this says accepting losses, managing conflicts. Now, I'm not saying just accept that this person is a debaucherous person in a way that allows them to be debaucherous in your world. This says understand the debauchery of this person will free you. Understanding it purely and knowing that you too carry within you the exact same stuff that this person carries within you that you've resisted to accept and acknowledge in yourself. That doesn't mean you've taken action on it. That means it's there somewhere, needing to be integrated, accepted, and seen as a part of self. And this will allow there to be healing and more peace here. Okay, through this. It's very difficult to do, of course, because we have the big old ego here with this the solar plexus energy, which is the chakra of the ego, and all this yellow. Okay, so there's lots of ego coming through here that's really driving the suffering and driving the action for sure here, and also driving the suffering here by not seeing beyond that to the great truth of harmony, which that comes from the heart space. So here we have 2 green ones, 1 yellow, which means a heart is going to override this ego. And every time we choose love, every time we see and accept through the eyes of love, of what is, okay, love is reality, synonymous. And every time we choose that to see that and lean into that, we're choosing love. It becomes easier. Okay, that's the pathway to true love. And so, like I say, if there's a twin flame thing happening here, what's the quickest path to this? Is to find balance and harmony through the heart space, to be balanced in union with self. Okay, because I do feel like person A is having to go through their own spiritual journey. And however this looks like, nobody could judge this. Okay, I'm not saying it's morally right or ethically right. I'm not even talking morals and ethics. I'm just talking about the truth of the universe. Reality as it is, and reality is neutral. Okay, and so person A is shifting from a more materialistic body connecting energy to a more spiritual, higher dimension understanding of deeper truths. And I feel like B has already been in this deeper understanding of spiritual truths, but there is this need to connect to the heart space in order to accept what is, even the shadow sides of themselves, so that they can see person A from different eyes. And they're the only ones that can do this with being responsible. They can't blame or project onto A that A's debaucherous, that A's the one with a problem, A's the one that needs to get their act together. No, they don't. They don't need to do anything. B can either stay in suffering, or they could see the universe from the eyes of reality. And the eyes of reality is that in God's universe, everything is perfect and has positive and negative, both aspects at once. Okay, at once. And harmonizing the two, not being in one polarity, allows there to be that balance and that harmony. So let's see, Spirit, for pile number 3, what is it that pile 3 needs to know about this spiritual journey, this connection? What is it that I'm missing? What is it that pile 3 needs to know or hear about this connection or this journey? Anything I've missed? Clear and concise message for the greatest and highest good of pile 3. Please protect me and the viewer as I channel this message for the greatest and highest good of this connection. And the viewer, thank you so much, pile number 3, for allowing me to tap into your energy, the energy around you at this time. I'm so blessed to be here. Now, if you don't like this tarot deck, then bye-bye. All right, so 7 of Swords. What did I say? Both of these people mirroring in some capacity here. You know why? Because the 7 Swords is a not seeing of a great truth. It's a deception. Okay? And it doesn't have to be malintended or like trying to deceive. It's just deceiving because we're not dealing with truth. We're dealing with illusion. As long as person A continues to not acknowledge the inner child, then they're acting in a way here that isn't truthful. And they cannot be truthful with person B because they are in a seven swords energy. The inner child is subconsciously driving out of pain, out of shadow, this materialistic thing. They're connecting on a very shallow level. And they're seven swords. And so B will continue to be disappointed, and A might even lie to them because they believe in their own sort of actions or having some sort of purpose. Okay. And then B is in some sort of lie because B is not wanting to see, and they're not wanting to acknowledge the shadowy side within them that's in there. Okay, now this is hard to do in a tarot reading here to show what this dark side is, because it's not saying that, again, B is debaucherous and needs to sleep around. No, it's saying in God's universe, we are all things, and we cannot see something in another unless we have it in ourselves. And when we disown it and reject it and suppress it, it creates our suffering because we're not integrating that part of self. And so we can't accept it in other. We resist it in other. We run away from it from other. We get repulsed by it by other. We judge other. And no, when we're judging, that's not in the heart space. Okay, there is no judgment in pure divine order. So seven swords, okay, Ace of Candles in reverse, clarifying the world. So the Ace of Candles is two wands. And look at this big old fiery bush here. I don't even think I read this. Hold on, let me read what this says. It says, Seven of Feathers, Jacob the deceiver. Jacob said to his father, I am Asua, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing. Interesting. Okay, and then we have the world, New Jerusalem. And here it's clarified by the Ace of Candles. Okay, sorry, this is the Ace of Wands, not the Two of Wands, the Ace of Wands. Okay, Ace of Candles, Moses in the burning bush. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, here I am. So Ace of Wands definitely could connect back to this lust, this debauchery sort of energy here is a blaze here, and it's running the show. It's sort of out of control. This is the thing that's being concluded here, okay? This world is talking about an end of a cycle, a successful end of a cycle, a closure of something here, a full understanding of this. And I feel like person A is going through whatever it is, however it happens to be, where they have to go through their own process. And it's not for B to say, how long or whatever, but B definitely needs to be okay with themselves. And I feel like I'm just helping B kind of weather the storm, if you will, because I do feel it's a storm that will pass. It will pass, but how do you manage? How do you balance? How do you work through? And it's like having to see through our own seven swords. That's how we do it. Okay, so we have the Six of Grains, which is six pentacles, widow's generosity. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. So it's an imbalance here. And I feel like person A cannot give to B. And this is what I was saying, like person B feels the instability, or like what's missing within me, like this comparison to this lifestyle and this choosing of superficial things. Does that mean that the superficiality is as more meaning than I do? No, seven swords, obviously, and they know this. Then it's like, then why am I experiencing this? Why is this my reality in the 3D? Okay, so we have the wheel within a wheel, cycles of life. So cycles and the world here, meaning we have to learn as many times as it takes for us to break cycles. There definitely, with this inner child, there could be ingrained ways of being here that are needing to be broken and understood. This connection feels like it's divinely guided, and I also feel like it could be definitely stunted here for sure until this is sort of healed and cleared out. Okay, but person B has the ability to also keep ascending here, because if B does believe they're on some sort of twin flame journey here, then B is being called to see from the eyes of the divine, which is the positive and the negative polarity in divine order, not from the eyes of chaos by removing one and being an illusion and fantasy, or being repulsed and being in the opposite end. Okay, so they have to work through their seven swords. And I feel like Spirit is saying this is stunted or stuck here There can't be a giving and receiving in a flow state by either party right now because of where they're at. And so there's a disconnect here. Okay, the King of Cups. Nehemiah rebuilding Jerusalem. Come, let us build the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. Nehemiah. So the King of Cups. Remember what I said? We can't pick who we love. This person's easy to love. They're non-debaucherous. Let me love them. This person is debaucherous. They're wounded. I won't love them. No. Obviously, and person B knows this because person B has a lot of love for A. I don't think they want to have love for A because it's painful. And so this is where this healing message comes through. It's saying this love actually is beautiful. And it's as equal and as valid as any other love. Even loving the one that's healing and opening and making us feel good. In fact, this type of love, it makes us see through greater eyes of the truth of the universe. Because, again, we don't want to be in either polarity where we're like idolizing the thing in which we want to love and how it should look like and removing all the things we don't want to acknowledge. Or like shunning what it is we don't like and only seeing that and then removing all the things, because both these things are true about A, the good and the positive, or the positive and the negative, as much as it would be for someone who might be not doing these debaucherous things. And so until we truly, like really, really sit with that and see that the eyes of the Creator has no judgment and that both exist, then this love is actually truly coming from a heart space of love. There's no judgments. There's just acceptance and love through the eyes of the Creator, divine order. Okay. So 6 of Wands, ego. Okay. So it says the fall of Jericho. When the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. So everyone charged straight in and they took the city. So again, the 6 Wands is a card of victory, but it's self-victory, and it's like very fleeting here because it's like, how am I perceived? How is this 3D experience of other and experience propping me up, making me feel okay? And so this is fleeting, and this isn't the great truth. The great truth is deep, it's love, it's centered. It's like person B needs to know that they don't need to have a fleeting experience with someone that isn't debaucherous to then just make them feel okay. And that would be fleeting as well, because the minute that person who isn't debaucherous does something that doesn't feel so good, now they're now they have the shadow part. And so everyone has this shadowy part. And so it's not about how's this person making me feel or what is it in the moment, or what's acknowledged about me, or my image I'm portraying as far as A is concerned. This sort of identity that they wear, there's a reason they're doing this action, and it's to prove to themselves, to show to themselves and the world around them this version that they're showing and outputting, even if they don't say it or believe what it is that they're doing. It's in their action. Like I said, the action is what they're giving value to. And so it feels very like it's all about the image, which feels very shallowy, feels very ego-y here. And it's like all in the name of another appreciating me and validating me and supporting me. It's like, okay, but that's false or fleeting. It's 7 swords. Who cares if people are like celebrating you or like giving you an orgasm for 1 second? What does that do? Nothing. It's very temperamental and superficial here. So there's a need to connect to a deeper, greater truth. Both of these people, like deeper, really dig into the deep truth of what love actually looks like. It's not a 6 Wands. And I think both these people love with the 6 Wand energy. It might have 2 different values, but it's still a 6 Wand energy. It's all about the illusion and the perception of what's happening in the 3D rather than the deepness here of what love actually looks like. And love is forgiving and kind and accepting and unconditional and outputting. It's not contingent on how you see me or what you do for me or whatever. It's not temperamental. And it also doesn't, because I don't know how to word this, but there is no stopgap, because this person could say, well, I love them from afar and I love them. And create the stop. Okay, energetic stop of something here. Whereas B doesn't need to fully like involve themselves with A, but they need to remove that stop energetically so that they can integrate the dark and the light and integrate the positive and the negative of all that is divine and sit with that to become centered. Because right now, I think B could coast with the 6 wands type love. When A is healed, when A is not the Baccharis, then it's go time or okay time. No, that's 6 wands. I hope you understand what I'm saying here, okay? 10 cups. So idolized fantasy. Okay, idolized fantasy. Let me read this. It says 10 of chalices, Elizabeth and Zachariah's joy. He will be joy and delight to you, and many will rejoice because of his birth. So I feel like person B is actually not in reality with this 10 cups and the 7 swords. Okay, we already know, I think it's an obvious with person A, unless, of course, you're person A here and you still don't understand the shallowness of what we're really connected to this 3D physical body being and why we're acting this way of the inner child. I think this is more standard. A lot of pain here for sure. I'm not minimizing this. It's very heavy, okay? But this is more elaborate and intense and harder to undo because this might be a spiritual bypass of an understanding, but it's 7 swords and 10 cups and 6 wands. Which is saying we're not seeing a great truth of what love actually is here because we're too blinded. And we have this version of love that we're operating out of. And so that's the stopgap. It's like I will be in this sort of fantasy type love. And what it is that I want to like idolize about what it would look like, and even if we say, well, no, I'm not looking for a perfect person, it's like, no, but we have an idea of what that looks like, and that's a fantasy because true love doesn't paint the idea. It happens. It's a happening. There's no choosing from a catalog. Okay, and in this case, I hope this makes sense. B is carrying some sort of shadow within themselves that they don't want to see, that is repulsed or judging or seeing as bad with this illusion of how they're seeing person A. Because person A is acting in this way, which we see, obviously. It's not healed, and it also has shadow. But if B wants to be balanced and wants to see in divine's divine order and God's truth, they can see both aspects at once and not totally idolize, meaning I'm going to create the version of love that I say is what love is. No, you're not the what love is creator. The creator is what love is. And what love is what it is. It's exactly as it is, perfect as it is. There is nothing to manipulate. There's nothing to add to God's great love. We cannot create God's great love, you know? And this is why we cannot choose. We're just either in love or we're not in love, you know? And now when I say love, it's like we love everything and everyone through the eyes of the creator because we're seeing it as it is and we're accepting it as it is. We're not resisting. We're not shunning a certain part of self. Okay, so this is telling me that person B still has some idea in their mind that they could manipulate the type of love that they're expecting to be what love is. It's like, no, that's man-made. That's not true love. If you're on this divine union of 1111, then you're being called to step up to what great love is through the eyes of the creator. And the eyes of the creator accepts all. It rejects none. And it starts with itself. Okay, 8 of Cups. So after he said this, he was taken up before his very eyes, and a cloud hid him from their sight. Acts 1:9. 8 of Chalices, the ascension of Jesus. So 8 Cups is a walking away. This is telling me that person B is walking a fine line here. Of course, person B does not need to engage with debauchery and any of this material action of manifestation in the 3D that is not reflective of great spiritual truths. The only way to do this is to acknowledge it's unfulfilling and to understand what would be fulfilling. Yes, that is within their ability to do this. Okay, because they'll know their inner compass, what feels aligned and what feels against spiritual truth. However, when there's confusion, when there's projection, when there is the veil of resisting what's within them and a shadow within them and not seeing reality as it is, then we start to contort and distort what it is that is actually happening. And I feel like Spirit is really saying that if person B walks away from this sort of activity, they're being called to keep their heart open to what love truly is from the eyes of the Creator, of acceptance, because we can love and accept and not partake in debauchery differently than how B is doing it, because I feel B is shutting that part out. And it hasn't healed it, hasn't transmuted it, hasn't done anything with it. It's sort of like sitting in seven swords. If I just don't engage in it, it doesn't exist. That person maybe will change, maybe it'll go away, or maybe, I'm the one that's in the right. I'm doing things spiritually. This isn't bad. I'm good. It's like, no, we're just sitting seven swords, and we could sit seven swords forever thinking we're divine, thinking we're like seeing the truth, thinking that our way is God's way. It's like, no, it's like, but I'm not hating that person. I'm not judging them because I'm just letting them do. It's like, no, but this isn't what this is about. This is about seeing through our own seven swords. The minute we have a stopgap judgment, doesn't mean we're outwardly telling them they're bad. This means we're carrying a judgment in our energy body. We're holding judgment within us about another, what's bad and what's good. This will follow us around. This person's showing this to person B. And if they don't learn it here, they're going to learn it elsewhere. It's going to follow them around because person B is on being called to see from the eyes of the Creator what reality really looks like. And it accepts all. That takes work, and that takes transmutation of carrying of this judgment within them of what's good and what's bad, what's acceptable, what's not, what I want and want to experience, and then I'll hold space for that. And what I don't, I kind of shun and don't see, and I pretend it's not for me or it's someone else's thing. It's like, no, it's not someone else. You are that else. You are that person. We are all one. You are this person. Whatever it is shadowy they're doing, you are that. There's time to embrace it and integrate it into the you that you are. And then you feel beautiful and light. You don't have to partake in the shenanigans, but it's like you're responsible for this part of your journey here, which is accepting everything as the Creator would, as whole, as all, as the all, without shunning and turning a blind eye or not accepting certain truths because we don't want to see it or it's uncomfortable or society says this is bad and this is good. And so now, therefore, this is my belief. These are my beliefs. This is the way it's good. This is how it should be. No, well, we're looking at reality, and reality is neutral. And although there is a great, deep, profound truth and union, and not of this action, but this person's wounded. That's why they're acting how they're acting. It's not bad or good. It's just they're acting out of a wound. It doesn't feel good. It's not aligned with truth. It's in shadow. But both are shadowed. Okay, I hope this makes sense. A beautiful angel. So let's take a look at the guidance. Although this was lots of guidance for today's reading. Whew, let's take a look. So Spirit for pile number 3. What is the guidance? What is the advice? What is being communicated to pile 3 in regards to healing, in regards to what they can do to heal, to help free them from suffering or anything they're needing to be aware of in this healing journey? It's too many, but I do feel there's a few that wants to come out for pile number 3. This one, this one, and there's one more. Wow. Okay. So we have a vitality. I am a being of light. I accept the divine energy in my body, and every one of my cells regenerates. So every one of my cells. So I'm not rejecting anything. Nothing's fragmented. The dark and the light, everything I accept. Okay, in the divine energy body. There's no resistance. There's no suppression of it. There's no pretend it doesn't exist or only accept what I like, what feels good. No. Acceptance. Yes, acceptance. Exactly. I accept every step that life presents to me without resistance. Again, there's a shadowy part I don't want to accept in myself that I see in this person that I don't like. I tried to find out what the universe is trying to teach me so that I can grow. again, this is all about B, okay, and their ascension process. Thus, I advance in freedom on the path of light. Okay, so the ball is with B to grow. Okay, obviously A needs to heal this for sure, but I feel like B is really here, wanting to grow, wanting to spiritually expand, wanting to see great truths from the eyes of the Creator. They need to accept and stop resisting the shadowy parts. All is good in God's universe, okay, or all is balanced. So action, my divine action incites love and harmony. Love and harmony doesn't say resistance or judgment, okay? I am aware of my thoughts and driven by positive forces. I listen to my heart. My desire to manifest light transforms tests into growth, challenge into opportunity, and fear into love. So I got to bring this up again because this is coming through. So remember I was talking about if we're too much in fantasy, it's like we don't want to see, okay, with the other side here. And so in order to depolarize the energy, we have to infuse it with the opposite. Okay, if we're too much in this like illusion where all we see is the negative and it's magnified and we don't see anything good, it's like, oh, I hate like mushrooms. And it's like, we can't see anything good. Like it doesn't matter sort of what we put with it. But if we sort of create this positive perspective of what the mushroom is good for, and we infuse it with that, we get more neutral about it. And then we're not in this sort of intense, like hanging on to that experience we had where it just, I didn't like it. It didn't, whatever experience we had. Okay. There's a magnified, intense energy that's polarizing here. And the only way to depolarize this illusion fantasy world is to infuse it with the opposite. And so this is why this positive force must come in, because I feel like we're repulsed or we're not acknowledging the shadowy side of ourselves. And we're only seeing it in that person. And as long as we see it out there, that person has an issue. That person is the Bacchus. That person is the one that needs fixing. No, we need to see the positive and infuse it with the positive. And of course, positive is what? Heart space, love, harmony. Okay, I listen to my heart. My desire to manifest light transforms tests into growth, challenge into opportunity, and fear into love. And then we can become centered. And centered, like I said, is true harmony. It is true divine order. It is not polarized in either side. Affirmation. I listen to myself and acknowledge my needs. I assert myself and retain my power. I am brave and gentle. I don't have to be afraid of others. I respect myself and I am respected by others. So I do feel like there is a need to definitely be honest with what isn't aligned with value. Okay, without judgment, but then also seeing the shadowy side. But I feel like this affirmation too is talking about person A and feeling like they're needing to win over someone's nurturance in a way here, because I don't feel like person A respects themselves. Okay, so they don't respect themselves because underneath it all is this wounded inner child. And so I am brave and gentle. I don't have to be afraid of others. And this wounded child is. And so it doesn't respect itself and it acts in certain ways so it could get some form of respect, but it's buying it over in a way that's actually not respecting at all. It's doing the opposite and it's perpetuating this thing. Okay, faith. I am confident I will achieve my goals. I live in the present and have faith in the future. I firmly believe in my value within the universe. Beautiful. So if we're aligned in the present, what will unfold, I have to trust in the divine, that the divine order will unfold without fear, one step at a time. I see the mountain ahead and dedicate myself to taking one small step at a time. I make progress by staying focused on the present moment, the current task. Thus, I regain my ease of living. So this said in advance, okay, earlier than expected, proceed, prematurely, an hour before. I feel like person B is not in the present moment. And the only time they're really suffering is when they're judging because they have a past experience that they can infuse in the situation where they create an idea of something being good or bad. And so person B is being called to be in the present moment every single time. And one step at a time, they can dispel the 7 swords and this judgment and this belief so that they could be in sort of this dance with the universe so they can work through their ascension and be responsible for their ascension rather than this sort of giving it away power. Okay, they're really giving it away. They're taking less accountability for what they're capable of doing and what they could transmute and what they can accept and get aligned with reality. But they're not doing that. Okay. And I don't think they know that they're doing this. They think that they're doing something right by God in some way, like, oh, this is divine. And that's not divine. It's like, no, it's all divine. Everything's divine. Okay. So courage. I am stronger than fear and bigger than doubt. I am light and I remain light. I trust in God and stand tall before the test of time. I grow and become wiser through every challenge. I am a being of new life. I love this because this is being reborn in the eyes of God, in the eyes of the Creator, which is accepting the dark and the light. Okay, and understanding when we are in shadow, that's creating the distortion and the fear. And so when we are in light, we are in true love and light. We are one with the Creator. We see nothing but true, abundant love, because that is the true nature of God. That's our true nature. And if we're not seeing all love, then we're not in the true nature. We're distorted. Okay, and that it could come through, like I said, shadows, egos, projections, past, not being in the present, fears. All right, so do not cast judgment and find it within yourself, wherever that energy sits, and make one with it. Embrace it. Okay, even if it's difficult at first, in order for there to be this sort of shift in how we're engaged. And this person is working through this thing, okay? But it's not our responsibility to do anything except for hold this beautiful higher state of consciousness, this beautiful true love energy, with eyes open, not with eyes closed. Okay, eyes open. So, beautiful angel, this is your reading. I hope this helped you, and I will see you at the next one. Bye-bye.